Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the What If Guy, back with another fanfiction. This is the first part of What If Issei became the guardian of the universe. Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. Issei Hyoudou was dead. He knew he was. Yes, at some level at least he was aware of this. He had been murdered by his own girlfriend on a date, their first date of all things, right when it was coming to its end. Walking through the park at evening, hand in hand with her, with an actual girl, yes, and then suddenly, she turned around and killed him. Not only that, she had suddenly somehow transformed. Black wings grew out of her back, she seemed to become a bit taller, her clothes changed. No, he thought, they vanished and were replaced with a strange but very sexy leather outfit. Well, a small consolation was at least that he was able to see her naked for a few moments in the second while she did transform, Issei said to himself. He remembered the words, the person who had killed him had said this to him. Will you die for me? It was kind of fun, like playing house with a little child. The mocking words were still hauling through his head. Well, it could have been worse, a very small sarcastic part of him thought. At least she had fun. Who cared about why? How she had casually and coldly commented to him why she did it, in words he did not even come close to understand. Blame God for putting this sacred gear inside you, she had said. What the hell did that even mean? He thought. Sacred gear, what the hell was that? He had died. Or did he? He asked himself. Issei was dead. When he was looking around right now though, he wasn't even so sure about that last part anymore. He was standing inside a completely empty white room. What was strange however was that he couldn't actually make out any real walls. The room just seemed to continue until he couldn't even make out its end anymore. What in the world was this crazy place? He had been dying. He was quite sure about that. But somehow he was still alive, he asked himself. The last he remembered was bleeding out back there in the park, right next to the fountain. And now he was here, wherever that was. He looked down on himself. The wound was no longer there, he realized. His body was healed. He was pretty well sure, however, that he had a bleeding wound in his chest just a few moments ago. And well, he still had a body. This alone would be strange if he were some kind of ghost, right? Was this heaven? He asked himself for a short moment. But then he should be surprised to be even here, another sarcastic part of him thought. After all, he had been a notorious pervert. He did die, didn't he? I see you have arrived, a voice greeted him. And no, this is not heaven. But yes, technically, you died. As Issei turned around, he saw the figure of a young man, maybe 25 or 30 years old by his looks, with dark brown hair, who was about one head taller than him. He was wearing something that looked like a quite ordinary styled gray suit. At least that was what he looked like at the first glance. But something told us that this was anything but a normal person. He didn't really understood it himself, but somehow his senses were screaming at him that this guy was all but normal. It told him to either run away or bow down to him. And there was something else. How in the world did this guy know what he had just been thinking? Who are you? How did you know? He attempted to ask him the question. But once again the stranger was one step ahead of him. Who I am, he replied. I actually have many names. You can just call me Darian. That is at least the name I am going by currently, he stated. What is important for you is, I am the one who has brought you here. And, to the question, how did I know what you were thinking? Yes, Issei Hyoudou, I have indeed been reading your mind, the man said to him, smiling friendly. What? He just thought. Okay, after girlfriends who suddenly grew wings, stab you to death and then fly away. Maybe this should not be surprising him that much. Despite the insane things the man had just told him, he wasn't in any way a threat at all. In fact, his expression was actually comforting. Maybe that was it, he had just lost his mind. Yes, things like Yuma growing wings and killing him, finding himself in a completely white room with a man who claims that he can read your thoughts. That couldn't be true, could it? In reality, he was probably locked up somewhere and in a straitjacket, surrounded by doctors who were trying to find out what was wrong with him, he thought. No, Issei Hyoudou, you have not gone crazy, the man told him, once again repeating what he was thinking. All of this here is actually quite real. You're just no longer in your regular world. Ah ha ha ha, Issei suddenly started to laugh, sounding however quite forced. This is a dream, right? I am dreaming. Or is all this here some kind of special effect? Are you from one of these TV shows? I see. You are confused, he said casually. That is more than understandable in your situation. First of let me assure you that nothing will harm you while you are here. And to your questions, where we are. This here is, as it is called, a provisorical spatial dimension. You could say it is a small gap between realities that my group is using for its purposes. A what? Issei wanted to call out, but it became only a quiet whisper. He slowly nodded with his head sheepishly. Of course he understood absolutely nothing. Maybe I should use other means to convince you, the man said. Suddenly the room around them changed. Instead of being in a white empty space, they were now standing a few centimeters above the open sea. Or better said, they were hovering right above the water. Issei could hear the waves of the ocean, could feel the wind. It was so real. Come on, touch it, the man named Darian said, as Issei bowed down and reached his hand out to the surface of the sea that had just appeared where they were standing. He could feel the cold water running through his fingers. It is, Issei wanted to say. It is real. Technically at least, Darian told him. My power can form this place, and whatever I will it becomes reality. I would be capable of even more if I were truly here, he stated. Truly here. But, Issei questioned, my physical self is actually in a different universe. The body you see here, like everything else around you, is a manifestation I have created with my mind, he explained. Everything around them now changed back as it was before. The ocean under their feet was once again replaced with the empty white room. Once again Issei was aghast. Other universes? He asked. Like in the TV shows, the being named Darian responded with a hint of humor. Of course. For a moment he grinned and actually had to hold back his laughter. Even the being in front of him had a grin on his face, but then remembered where he was. Does that mean you were something like ... God? He asked. Given the power he possessed, this question was not so far off. No, the man replied, but you could say I and my group are deeply connected to the force you would call God. But that is an explanation for another time. I see that you can barely keep up with the few things I have already told you. That would be an understatement, Issei thought sarcastically. I have brought your soul here to make you an offer, the being called Darian said to him. An offer, he repeated. Brought my soul here. As I have told you, you have indeed died, the man continued. As you have probably figured out, your current body, just like mine, is just a mental projection. I have formed it so that we can talk easier. Your true body is still lying in the park, he told him calmly. Issei didn't say anything. He had suspected something like that actually, but hearing it from his mouth, Issei only managed to gulp. I am a guardian, a protector of the multiverse as you could call it, Darian introduced himself. I am the leader of our group, and I want to make you an offer. An offer? Yes, but tell me first, would you like to live again? He asked. Of course I would, he replied heatedly. Who wouldn't? Who wouldn't? That is a good question. What if I told you now that your return is to be bound on certain conditions? What do you mean with conditions? Of course I want to return to life. All I want to do is go back and forget that any of this ever happened. If you can bring me back, then just do it. That is exactly what I meant, the man stated. I fear that the option to go back how things were no longer exist for you. What do you mean? Issei asked confused. What I mean is this, even if you return, do you really think the people who were responsible for your death would just let you continue to live your life like nothing happened? He questioned. Issei froze. The situation became quickly clear to him. Of course they wouldn't. As soon as they found out that he was still alive, they would come after him again. Responsible? You mean Yuma? He asked. Her and others. Devils, was his simple answer. Issei was once again stunned. But at the same time, it was at this point that he truly had enough of it all. Okay, stop. Devils, he yelled. Would you please care to explain to me from the beginning? Don't get me wrong, you seem to be an okay guy, for a superpowered super being anyway, but first Yuma turns into this, whatever she was, and stabs me. Then she starts to talking about something called sacred gear. I don't even know what that is. And then you show up and tell me something about mind reading, guardians, and other universes. It was all bursting out of him now. All his senses were still somehow telling him that this being could crush him like a bug and that yelling at him was probably not the smartest thing to do. But he just couldn't help himself. I just don't understand anything anymore, Issei said now more quietly. Ironically, his time here was probably the first time in days that he had not spent most of his mental power on thinking about girls and their breasts. Yet the man who could so easily destroy him if he wanted was only looking at him with a friendly, and obviously uneasy expression. Issei couldn't help to think that this guy felt sorry for him. Okay, he said. Issei was still trying to make sense of all of that. He wasn't even sure when he had suddenly developed a sixth sense for danger. If it was that. You are right, the man responded then. I should first explain a few things to you. Like you have probably already figured out by now, your girlfriend Yuma is actually a supernatural being. Like I am, but different, he stated. Her real name is Rainier, by the way, as we have found out. She is actually a fallen angel to be exact. She is part of a group that resides in this town. But they are by far not the only supernaturals here. A fallen angel, like in the Christian Bible you mean? Issei asked him. Like in, fallen from heaven and all that. In a way, yes. But I doubt that she or any member of her team have ever actually fallen from heaven. One thing you should know is that there had been a great war several centuries ago between the three most prominent factions, the angels, the fallen angels, and the devils. A great war, Issei repeated. Yes, all three sides had been decimated at its end. And the fallens were in the worst state. Literally only their leaders and a handful of others had been left. So it is most likely that Rainier and the rest of her team had been born in the generations afterwards. Today the three factions are in ceasefire. Or more correctly, as it is called today, a Cold War situation. Your hometown QO is actually being dominated by the devils. In fact, the girl Rias Gremory, that you know from your school, is a devil. It was all just too much. Issei's brain was still trying to process all the crazy information that was suddenly being thrown at him. Rias Gremory, a devil? She was in the class above him in high school for fuck's sake. One of the most popular girls in his school. And what has that all to do with me? He called out now. I am not an angel or a devil or whatever. I am not a member of this damn groups, he practically yelled. So why in the world had Yuma-chan suddenly killed me? You have a sacred gear inside of you, came the answer. She had mentioned the term, right? He asked. It is, to put it simply, a weapon created by God. It was created in first line as a defense for humanity from the supernatural. sacred gears are reincarnating themselves into human beings. That means a small number of humans are born with such a weapon sealed inside their bodies. You are one of them, so that is the reason. I was born with such a weapon inside me, and she killed me just to make sure that I could never by sheer chance use it against her. Issei began to understand the situation, or at least a small part of it. Yes, but we were speaking about the ways to bring you back to life, Darien reminded him. So you can bring me back to life, Issei responded. I can. But the truth is, I am not the only one who could do this. There is someone else who is planning to do the same thing. You remember what I have told you about the devils? Darien asked him. You said that Rias Gremory senpai is one of them. He was still a bit unbelieving about the idea that one of the great one-samas of his own school should actually be some sort of demonic creature. She is, he answered. In fact, she is one of the 2 leading devils of this area. She, along with the one known as Sona Citri, has claimed this town as her territory. Her territory? Yes, without the consent or even the knowledge of most of the people who live here, of course. But that is a moral question for another time, he stated. She is the other person who is trying to revive you. I have, however, kept a hold to that for now. What? You mean you are actually keeping someone else from reviving me? Issei exclaimed in shock. Why in the world would you do that? As I told you, her help comes with a high price. If a devil revives you, you become a devil yourself, and automatically the servant of the one who did revive you in the first place, he explained to him. But it seems Rias Gremory had no intention to tell you that until afterwards, he commented. It was clear by his tone that he thought not very high about the devils and their methods. She would essentially made you her slave, and if you would ever try to leave her, the devils would hunt you down and kill you. She knew who Rainier was and what she was planning since the day she had first contacted and asked you out, and could have easily stopped her or warned you. But she decided to deliberately let you get killed so that she could force you to become part of her group of servants without having to ask you. So I interfered to give you an actual choice. After hearing this, Issei could only gulp again. He understood now that he meant when Darien said that there is more than just one group to look out for. For the moment I have moved you here, and this place is outside of your regular flow of time. That means we have time to talk, so that you can make your own decision. Now, are you finally ready to hear my offer? He asked him. Yes, I am Darien-sama, Issei replied. You don't have to call me that, he said. I am not your master, unless you want me to be. And despite the power that I command, I don't consider myself above you, or anyone else for that matter, he stated. Let me make one thing clear, if you want me to, I will bring you back to life anyway. No matter if you accept my offer or not. My help is not bound to such prices. Do you understand that? Why, yes, Issei answered, still a bit insecure. And before you even ask that, the reason why I myself have not interfered and prevented your death is simple. As I told you, I am not truly here. I have great power, nearly unlimited by your standards, but even that is not enough to interfere physically when my actual self is several dimensions away. To that comes that for certain reasons the influence of my group in your home universe is somewhat limited. So all I was able to do was to summon your soul to this place. Issei at this point just accepted that piece of information. Okay, I understand, Issei replied. Well, at least this guy had an excuse for not keeping Yuma from killing him, he thought. Being in another universe actually sounded like a quite good one to him. The offer I want to give you is simple. Do you want to join our group? Join your group, Issei repeated, dumbfounded. Yes, we the Guardians are protecting all realities from threats, simply spoken. A duty given to us by the force of creation that formed all universes. So that is God then? Issei questioned. Yes and no, he answered. The entity that is in your world known as God is actually a small part of this force that was separated from the whole to watch over your home universe. My power is in fact far above the God of your world, but it is still nothing compared to his true self that exists in all universes. That is actually connected to the reason why our influence in your world is limited. But that is again a tale for another time. What you should know for now is this. Yes, we are protectors of this world like any other, and we are at war. There exists as an organization, a force, at the other end of the spectrum. They are the true reason our group was formed a long time ago, to counter the threat that they present. Their goals are in some sense the complete opposite to ours. They want to reform the entire multiverse by destroying everything that is flawed, failed, or unworthy in their eyes, or just standing in their way. That means people, states, worlds, even entire universes, all is to be destroyed if it doesn't meet their standards. This is actually yet another reason why I couldn't help you in person. I am currently involved in a campaign in another universe. The war between our two sides has been going on for thousands of years. It makes the so-called Great War between the three factions look like a small-scale banter. And you want me to become part of that? Issei called out in absolute shock and horror. Don't misunderstand me. I don't want you to join this war, at least not yet. Not for a long time. What I offer you is this: fulfill one mission for us. Or maybe two if you cannot make up your mind. It won't be anything too dangerous, only dealing with minor threats for now. In exchange we will train you and help you to realize the power of your sacred gear. One job, an easy one, that is all we ask from you, and then we will properly train you and show you everything you need to know to protect you from anyone who would try to take advantage of you. After this one job you can then decide if you want to stay with us or not. Issei had to admit it sounded better than anything else he had heard so far. If you refuse, I will bring you back just like the way you are, Darien told him. But as I said, we are at war. You can understand that we simply don't have the time to train you if you don't do at least one task for us, he stated. Okay, he thought it over. I guess we can show you in any case the basics of your sacred gear's power, even if you say no. We will leave you to defend yourself, but we will not train you to your full abilities. For that you would have to find someone else. Your other options are to let the devil reincarnate you and willingly become her servant. But then you will automatically get involved into their conflict instead. Or you can choose death and move on to whatever afterlife the people of your home are being sent to. I advise you to take some time and think it over. What kind of job? Issei wanted to know. The job I want to give you is actually very close to home, he said. Answer me one question. If you had the chance, would you go after Rainier and Rias Gremory and kill them? If I offered you the power to do it, think about it, the one who had murdered you and the one who had set you up to die. Would you destroy any of their subordinates who had helped them in their schemes and is standing in your way? Think about it and answer me. Issei didn't say anything for a few moments. Anger flew through him. He didn't even know who he was more angry at, the one who had claimed to like him and then killed him without a second thought, or the one who just sat back and let it happen, without getting her hands dirty when she could easily have prevented it all. Yes, a part of him wanted nothing more than get his hands around their throats. But he suddenly saw their faces in his mind. No, Issei answered after a few moments. I won't. Despite everything, I don't want either of them to die. Or at least I don't want to be the one to kill them. I am sorry. Why are you apologizing? You have passed the test, Darian told him. We want protectors after all, not murderers. Even if the difference between both is sometimes slim. Test. Hey, does that mean you have been screwing with me right now? Issei called out. A part of him could not believe how easily he was now chatting with a being that, by his own words, surpassed God. I admit I did, he replied. I needed to know how you truly feel, and just scanning the surface of your mind is not enough. The true job is this. We want you to keep an eye on Rainier, the one you know as Yuma Amano. Find out everything you can about what she is doing. We suspect that she will soon target another sacred gear user. Do everything to protect this person from her, or from others. We have reason to believe that there is someone else pulling the strings behind her actions, an organization that could become a greater threat in the near future. Disrupt her plans and interfere with her actions wherever you can. Keep a hold on whatever she is doing. But don't kill her or anybody else for that matter if it can be in any way avoided. We are not after Rainier. We want to find and expose whoever is hiding behind her. Moment, Issei said, you want me to go pestering Yuma? A grin began to form on his face. I knew you would like that part, he responded. If you want to call it that, then yes. Make her life harder, annoy her as much as you want, make sure her plans fail completely. But you don't want me to kill her. As I said, this is a low-threat mission, by our standards, so it should not be necessary to kill anyone. We are looking for information. You know something? Issei said to him. You have a deal. Are you sure? He asked him. Well, from all possibilities your offer sounds like the best one, and I am certainly not willing to die yet. As you wish. There is however one last thing you should know. When I return you to life, a small part of my energy will remain inside you. For me this doesn't mean much. A little bit of energy spent will restore itself quickly. But you will be different. This is a universal law that cannot be changed. Whenever a person is reincarnated, at least a small part of the force that reincarnated it stays inside this person. No matter what method is used, you will still be human. But you will be stronger than before, have access to abilities and power that no regular human would possess. Well, this is a good thing, isn't it? Given your situation it is, yes. I only wanted you to understand that even I can't bring you back exactly like you have been before. It doesn't matter. With this sacred gear thing inside me I was never completely normal anyway. And more power sounds very good actually. I see. Since you have accepted I will send you back now. When you have arrived, one of our agents in your world who is already somewhere in your town will contact you to give you more exact instructions and train you. For this I will plant a telepathic signal in your mind that she will be able to sense. So she will find you quickly and will remove it then later. She, Issei asked hopefully. I know exactly what you are thinking, he responded sternly. Yes, she is attractive, and you will have to talk with her about this topic. Okay, he grinned. I will send you back now. We will see each other again in the future, Issei Hyoudou. Darian lifted one hand and pointed at him, and once again the world around Issei started to change. Issei awoke. He saw that he was still lying next to the fountain. The wound that killed him, however, was gone. He decided not to stay here any longer and forced himself to stand up. He tried to bring some distance between himself and the place he had died. Right now he truly didn't want to meet any fallen angel or devil, at least for today. But somehow his legs just didn't want to work correctly. Of course, he had just been dead. What did he expect? After a few hundred meters, he broke down again. He was lying there for maybe a minute. Then he heard someone coming. It seems I have found you faster when I have thought, a voice spoke. So you are the new recruit the boss has told me to find. Issei realized that his worry was needless. This was obviously the agent that was sent for him. As he looked up he saw a young girl. She had brown hair that fell over her shoulders and was wearing black jeans and a light gray blouse and a black jacket, matching her pants, above it. You are the guardian looking for me, he said. Yes I am. And what is your name? She asked him. He saw that she also had a great pair of eyes. Yes, Issei thought, he truly was back. Issei and the girl he had just met had now left the city park. Or better said, she had been literally dragging him around since he was still in a bad condition. The problem was she couldn't figure out the reason for that. The reincarnation should have brought him back in perfect physical shape. So the problem had to lie somewhere else. It was probably that his body just needed time to adjust to the change that happened to it. Yes, that had to be it. Now they were both standing together in a hotel room a few miles away where she had brought him. Issei was in the moment sitting at the side of the bed where she had laid him down when they arrived. She was standing right in front of him, trying to make out what was wrong with him. Issei at the same time, at some level, realized mostly one thing. He was here, alone in a hotel room, with a girl. He was suddenly feeling even more uneasy than before, and it had absolutely nothing to do with his physical health. "My name is Gariel, by the way," she introduced herself. "You are Issei, wasn't that what you said?" "Yes, Issei Hyoudou," he said with a grin. It was a grin that seemed, and was, a bit forced, thanks to him being nervous. "I am looking out to getting to know you," she told him. It is not every day that the boss decides to recruit someone right away from death. This comment only caused him to blush, obviously misunderstanding her intentions. "I am glad to meet you too," he replied, stuttering. He was trying to look tough, but admittedly, he failed miserable. In the moment there was in first line one thought prominent in his head: he was alone with a girl in a hotel room. "Good, I am glad that I have found you this quickly for my part," she responded. "Especially since you are not feeling well." "You can say that," Issei stated. "But I guess I shouldn't complain, I have been dead after all." "I see," she replied. "Physically you should have been in perfect state though after your reincarnation. So it has to be something else." Suddenly she had another realization. "Issei, tell me, are you carrying something on your body, something that doesn't belong to you?" She asked him. What?" he asked. His brain was still being rattled by his overall miserable state, and by his own lascivious thoughts that were coming to him. "These devils were trying to reincarnate you, right?" she questioned. "I just asked myself how they were even intending to find you in time to do that. The park is big and the entire town is even bigger, and they couldn't have followed you that close without the fallen angel noticing. Do you have something with you that doesn't belong to you?" Yes," he answered and took out the flyer he had been given earlier, showing it to her. "Someone gave me this before my date with Uma." She took the piece of paper and took a short look at it. "Interesting, you said they gave you this before your date with the fallen." "Directly before?" she questioned. "Yes," he replied. "As I thought," she said, "this is a summoning card. A nice trick, you have to give that to these devils. When you had been lying there dying and wished to stay alive, you would have activated this. Or if you had been just carrying around and thought of Rias Gremory, for whatever reason, she would have your exact location and could have appeared right next to you, wherever you currently are." "You mean, everywhere? Even here or at my home?" "Yes, even in your own house. Nasty little buggers these devils are, kind of like doorstep salesmen," she commented. "You just can't get rid of them. Not here though, since my apartment is protected." Ironically, a day ago he would have cheered at the thought that a girl like Rias suddenly showing up at his home. But now, knowing what she was, and that she had plans for him, it was completely different. Another part of him was actually tempted to laugh about Gariel's snide remark. "Okay, let us deal with that first," she stated. "I have an idea about what could be the reason. Can I take a quick look at you?" "Oh, of course," he answered, now even more riled up. Once again obviously, or this time maybe rather willfully, misinterpreting her intentions. "Okay, I have some idea what might have caused your current state," she said, taking one step closer to him. "But for that I need to take a closer look at your mental and physical." "Hey, are you listening?" she asked him. Issei was deep red in the face. She suddenly realized that he wasn't listening to what she was saying at all. Instead he was staring right at her chest, and that his hands were halfway outstretched in exactly that direction. "Hey, what do you think you are doing?" she yelled at him now. This seemed to have brought him back to reality. "So you are that kind of guy," she remarked. For a moment he thought she would actually punch him, but she got a hold on herself. "Okay, you were chosen. So there is obviously something to you beside that," she stated seriously, but still visibly annoyed, and obviously slightly frustrated that she had just now realized that the boy in front of her was a pervert. "Issei," she finally said, "could you please stop thinking about my boobs for 5 minutes and listen to me?" She told him. "Okay, I think the reason you are feeling unwell is the change in your body after your resurrection, and that the new powers you are developing because of it are not getting along with the ones that come from your sacred gear," she explained. "But I think I can help you synchronize both energies. It will be quite quick actually." "Really?" "Yes, but," she answered. "Issei, I will have to show you something. And you must promise me that you do anything to keep a hold on yourself, to stay calm." What do you mean?" Issei asked her. "You should know, I have telepathic abilities," she told him. "Well, you will have probably two now, since it was Darian who had revived you and he is one of the most powerful telepaths in all known universes. What I want to try is to transfer information directly into your mind." "Really?" Issei said, stunned. "You can do something like that? You know, maybe I could use that for school. That could be really useful." He chuckled a bit, trying to be funny, but not quite succeeding given the situation. "I can, but it is not easy. The process costs a lot of energy, and I think I will only be able to do it when I am in my natural form." "But, natural form? You mean, you are normally not really looking?" Like that?" Issei asked, trying not to get his hopes crushed. I certainly do look like this, Gariel responded, now slightly annoyed. It is just, my true form might shock you. You have to remember, I am not gonna hurt you, no matter what I look like. Once again Issei was surprised how easily he seemed to get along with a clearly supernatural being. This one here a hot girl on top of that. Oh come on, he said to her, it can't be that bad, right? He was laughing once again, this time less forced. If you are still looking like this. Yes, my boobs are the same. A bit bigger actually, she replied, now with a grin on her face herself. Now, show me. Okay, but don't say I didn't warn you. With this word she began to transform. Her casual clothes were replaced with something that looked like a black-colored combat dress, and without a warning 2 pairs of black-colored feathered wings were ripping out of her back. Yes, Issei thought it wouldn't frighten him, whatever she was. Now he realized he had been wrong. His entire body froze. He could only stare at the girl before him. Only one sentence was once again hauling through his mind. Will you die for me? He heard Yuuma saying. He saw into Gariel's eyes, trying to ignore the black wings on her back. He should have suspected it sooner, he realized. Her eyes, they were violet, in a similar shade as Yuuma's. XXXXXXX. At another part of the town 2 other high school students were currently spending some of their own time. This too were Issei's 2 best friends Madohama and Matsuda. Both of them were from a similar mindset as Issei himself, and like he openly admitted it, that gave them under the students the nickname the Perverted Trio. They had just left the game arcade. Matsuda was just mentioning a new porn DVD he had bought yesterday, not hentai anime for once, but real porn. Then they were suddenly interrupted. Hey boys, I have been looking for you, a quite obviously female voice addressed them. They turned around, with a bit stunned expressions as they saw her. A girl as attractive as her calling to them on the streets or even talking to them wasn't something what happened to them usually. She had long dark hair, a beautiful face and a nice, no, more than nice figure as they saw in bright, kind of violet-colored, eyes. Both of them could literally feel their jaws hanging open. Then they suddenly recognized her, with some clear disappointment. Wait, you're Issei's girlfriend, aren't you? Madohama stated. Yuuma was it. Yes, that's right. It is nice that you remember me, she told them sweetly. But sadly you won't be for much longer. Before either of them could even ask her what she meant with that, they were both suddenly feeling dizzy by looking in her eyes. And then, a few moments later they had forgotten that she had ever existed. XXX. This was it, the fallen angel Rainer thought to herself. With erasing the memories of this 2 perverts, the last ties between her and Issei Hyoudou were cut. All in all, she was happy that she had it behind her. Now that this obstacle was out of her way, she could continue to follow her real plan. She remembered a human teenage boy who had showered her with all kinds of affection, in his own naive way, and nearly instantly angrily suppressed it. Was she really that starved for attention? She asked herself. It didn't matter. In a few days she would have the key to everything she ever wished for, and then she could happily forget everything what happened in this town. XXXXXXX. Issei could still only stare at the girl before him in her black wings. You are just like Yuuma, he stammered, still in shock about seeing her like this. A bit. Yes, she admitted. Another fallen angel? He exclaimed. Technically I am an angel, at least in some sense. I didn't fall in the regular way, and I wasn't born a fallen. You know, the one physical difference between an angel and a fallen angel is the divine protection she corrected herself, lack. Normally lost through sinful thoughts or actions, she explained. I have given it up by myself. It was more practical that way. He was just coming to terms with the revelation what she was, but couldn't help to still feel wary of her. Moment, you mean you have caused yourself to fall? He asked her. Why would you do that? I am a secret agent, you know. It is much more easy to infiltrate sinister organizations that are terrorizing the world if you don't radiate an aura of peace and love wherever you go, she commented. Issei looked at her dumbfounded about this crazy-sounding, yet completely logical explanation. Look, she continued, I don't want to scare you, Issei. I know the last fallen angel you met had stabbed you, but just because I have black wings on my back doesn't mean I am going to hurt you. Okay, he just repeated. I will begin now, she said and reached out to him with one hand. Issei could feel something. It was like fingers reaching into his mind, but not painful like you could imagine, just weird. Then he suddenly felt as if he were in a different place and time. He could see pictures, hear people talk, but his conscious mind didn't seem to know what to make out of it. It was all muddy, confused. Are you feeling better? He heard her asking a short time later. If he was honest, Issei wasn't even sure how much time exactly had passed. 1 minute, 2. He had pretty much been out of it. To his surprise, however, he realized that he suddenly had a basic understanding of energy manipulation. Well, very basic. He knew how supernatural energies worked and was able to sense them. Issei could feel both sources of energy inside of him, and was able to regulate them just good enough to keep them from hampering each other or from harming his body in the process. Yes, he answered, I do feel better. Good, she said. If that is all, I will bring you home now. Then I will now start warding your house, in case your schoolmate Rias decides to show up here or maybe that your girlfriend finds out that you are still alive, she told him. Okay, he answered, still feeling a bit weirded out by all of this. So you are the supernatural version of James Bond. With boobs, he heard himself saying. She only stared at him for a few moments as she heard his comment, before she broke out into howling laughter. Yes, that is one way to put it, she finally said, between giggles. You really are something, Issei Hyoudou. There was however something else she had noticed. The energy radiated by his sacred gear, it was not only extraordinary high. It was a very specific sort of energy, that of a dragon. There were a handful of sacred gears that they're based on draconic power, as she knew, and only a few with this kind of power. And for even less of them were the whereabouts unaccounted for, the so-called boosted gear, the device where the red Welsh dragon was sealed into. But there was only one way to be sure. Issei, can you activate your sacred gear? She asked him. You just need to concentrate. It should be quite easy, nearly like a reflex if you know how exactly to do it. Normally you should be able to figure it out by trying it by trial and error a few times. But it should already be part of the information that I just transferred into your head. So just try concentrating. And not to think of my breasts for a few minutes, she added. Issei did what she told him. He even ignored her glorious figure right in front of him. After a few seconds, a strange red-colored device that he had never seen before manifested itself on his arm. That is it, he asked. Ariel was focusing her mind on the sacred gear that had just appeared. On the first glance it had the look and also the readings of a normal twice critical. But she knew a few other ways to detect energies than any regular fallen angel would. She could see the enormous power hiding behind it. Yes, that is it, she said. Congratulations, you are carrying the boosted gear, one of the strongest sacred gears in existence. Boosted gear, I will explain it to you, but I think we should leave it for today. You look as if you are already ready to fall asleep. And you have probably heard more than enough about the supernatural for one day. Yes, you can say that, he responded. I will bring you home now. There is something else, I think you shouldn't go to school tomorrow. Not as long as you can't control your power and are vulnerable like this. When the devils find out that you are alive, they will without a doubt want to interrogate you. And like you are now, they will probably squeeze every bit of information out of you that you have. Hey, he called out. Sorry, but that's how it is, she replied. You can't even hide your power or shield your mind. Unless you might be able to do it instinctively. Actually, this will be under the first things I teach you. We will spend the next day training and learning. Just tell your parents that you are sick. Given your condition a few minutes ago, that would not even be a lie. But if I tell them I am sick, how will we explain being out the entire day? He questioned. Leave that to me, she told him, smiling. Hyoudou Academy, the occult research club. All in all, Rias Gremory was not really having a good day. Not that there was any danger or even serious problems for her. It was simply that things were not going as she had planned. By far, and that made her feel uneasy, at least in this case. But it was not only that. Something strange was going on here. She knew it. Have you found out something? She asked her queen Akino. Her strongest servant, who had just entered the room. Officially both of them were third-year students of Hyoudou Academy, 1 year higher than Issei. In truth, they were both high-class devils, and Rias for her part was a pure blood, a born devil and the heir of one of the most powerful families. The sister of one of the devil kings, and one of the 2 devils who laid claim to the territory of Hyoudou. Sorry Rias, we have been searching the entire district for him, Akino answered. Or maybe I should say for his body. Foo-foo, she added. The sound of her voice and the grin on her face hinted that she was actually holding back a light laughter at her last comment. For some reason this callous behavior infuriated Rias. Akino, she exclaimed angrily, that is nothing to make fun about. He could be dead. The plan in question was in this case the recruitment of a sacred gear user. None other than Issei Hyoudou, who had now vanished from their sight. What I am here. But you, Akino responded, pronouncing her title, as being honest. Her behavior as well made suddenly a 180-degree turn and she was now dead serious. He knew the risk, but he still insisted that we do it this way. There was never a guarantee that Issei wouldn't just throw the flyer into the next trash can. If you were worried about his safety, you should have thought about it earlier. But that is not what happened, The card was clearly being activated, for a moment at least, but then something cut it off. Rias explained. That wasn't my point, Akino retorted, visibly irritated. There had been a dozen things that could go wrong and he would die for good. And now you suddenly act all worried about him. You could have just asked him, you know. It was easier this way. Easier for who exactly? Akino questioned. It was not usual for this two to have a dispute like this. Despite being master and subordinate, they were the best friends. But since Issei Hyoudou had disappeared on them, she had developed a protective streak about their younger fellow student. Now that it was probably too late to make a difference, a cynical part of Rias thought. If I remember right, you went along with it, she told her. If you had problems with my plan, you could have mentioned it a few days ago. Akino had to admit she didn't have anything to answer to that. Rias was right, at least in this point. If she had any problem with that crazy plan of hers, she should have made her position clear far earlier, before this had happened. We will continue to look for him, she stated. But if we don't find him, we must go by the idea that the fallen angel had probably fulfilled her mission. I know, Rias said. The next day, Issei and Gariel were standing in front of each other. They were a few miles outside of the town border, outside of the devil's or the fallen angel's reach. Both of them were not keeping an eye off each other. Both of them were wearing dark-colored combat clothes and holding swords in their hands. Gariel had shown up once again the this morning and transported them here. His parents thought he was going to school. Actually, he had told his mother at first that he was not feeling well and asked her to write an apology letter for school. A short time later, Gariel appeared, claiming to be a fellow student, and made her forget that she had ever written the letter. Then she transported them here and they started their training. In the beginning, she had first let him run a few rounds around the place while carrying a weighted backpack. To be honest, he hadn't thought that he would be able to carry this even for 100 meters, but as it looked, he had grown stronger through his reincarnation. Raising up your stamina is one of the keys to control your sacred gear, she had told him. The stronger you are physically, the longer you will be able to keep it activated. He saw that he meant as he first tried keeping it activated for a longer time and then nearly collapsed from exhaustion after a few minutes. What followed afterwards was some basic combat training. Gariel had brought the 2 blades along since she wanted to teach him at least a few lessons in the use of weapons. Then followed by basic energy manipulation. One lesson, of course, how to conceal your presence from others, as she had promised. Then followed by another round of keeping your sacred gear activated for as long as possible. This time with getting involved in hand-to-hand combat at the same time. Beside that, she had also explained the ground principles of telepathy to him. The more advanced stuff in all areas, as she told him, would follow later. With Gariel's ability to transfer raw information directly into his mind, he was learning incredibly fast. It was, however, a question of his own mind really understanding and mastering these skills. There was a difference of knowing how to do something and truly knowing it. And there was, of course, the question of his body needing to keep up with the knowledge. Gariel had, however, also told him that she would do this only a few times in the best case. Something about it being too risky otherwise. By now it was already getting late afternoon. He had spent the greatest part of the day training. In between they had taken several long breaks, a few of them of nearly 1 hour. But Issei was still feeling exhausted like never before in his life. I knew it, you are also trying to kill me, he actually said to her as a joke at one point, as he was sweating under another round of endurance workout. I actually might if you don't try harder, she responded, also obviously making fun. The breaks they had used for several verbal lessons, like the history of his sacred gear, the fact that it actually had a dragon sealed inside. A fucking dragon. The basic lines how it worked. Then a more detailed version of the history of the Guardians, along with some information about the universe where their organization was founded. Some facts about the group who seemed to be their main enemy and had their roots in the same universe like them. Then came more history of the 3 factions and the Great War and similar things. So you are telling me that this dragon, the Drag, is actually living inside me? He wanted to clarify once again. In a sense, through the boosted gear, he is at the very least bonded to your soul. And he is more powerful than a god. Yes, more powerful than most of them. In this universe at least. But that doesn't mean that you are Issei. I have explained to you how it works. For now, you can only draw small amounts of power from it. Until you learn how to draw more and be strong enough to hold it with your body. Yes, for now it just doubles my power every 10 seconds, he replied. Very soon you will probably be able to draw more boosts at will and maybe even unlock the higher powers of the gear, she told him. Will I then also be able to do such incredible things like creating a dimension out of thin air or conjuring souls from other universes? He asked. She grinned. Maybe not exactly that, but you will have incredible powers, she stated. But I will hardly be the one to teach you all that. Despite that you may think of me, I am not a cosmic level powerhouse like our leaders. I am just a regular field agent and just a little bit stronger than a normal fallen angel of my level. The Guardians had just showed me a few tricks that I learned. And I am not that long in the organization myself, she explained. If I am honest, if it had not been for them, I would have probably fallen anyway, in the regular way. Would you then also have such a bitch like Yuma? The question had slipped through his lips before he noticed the sad look on her face as she said this. In the next moment he wanted to kick himself. Believe me, being a fallen angel is not easy, she answered. I might have been worse. Then I am truly glad that you met them, he said. So am I? You truly want to return to school tomorrow? She asked him. Yes, I guess I just don't want to miss everything because of this. You are deeper than someone would first think. If only you want to, she commented. Well, I think you can go now. I have taught you just enough that no devil will take easy advantage of you. Hyoudou Academy, the following morning. Issei was standing once again in front of his school. This time, however, he was visibly nervous. This had to be a first, he thought. Actually afraid to go to school. But normally you also wouldn't have to deal with a bunch of devils who were trying to recruit you and were now probably going to at the very least ask you a lot of questions. Questions he certainly didn't want to answer. And that certainly weren't their business in the first place. Hyoudou, are you okay? He heard someone asking him. Hello Murayama, he greeted her as he recognized one of his classmates. One who was the captain of the kendo club who he had been caught peeking on 2 days ago. On top of that, I have noticed that you were missing yesterday, she told him, ... and now I have seen you just standing here for nearly a minute. Are you alright? I mean, you weren't missing yesterday because we, had beaten you up too badly, weren't you? What? He was a bit dumbfounded by this strange apology. He remembered the trashing he got from the entire kendo club after they got him. And sympathy from Murayama was about the last thing he had expected. No, he replied, I was just sick yesterday. You had nothing to do with it. But thanks for your concern, he stated honestly. Okay, then I guess I will see you in class, Hyoudou, she said and turned to leave. Wait, he told her. I wanted to say I am sorry for peeking on you this last time. I will try to tone it down in the future. Since I have tons of other things to worry about now, he thought silently. But I can't promise to leave it out completely, because you are just too pretty. What the hell? Why have I just said this? He thought. Now it was her turn to look at him with an open mouth. For a short moment she actually seemed to be blushing. You know something, Hyoudou, maybe you would actually have more luck with the girls if you were a bit more like this more often, she told him, before leaving for class. Leaving Issei with a few things to think about. The Occult Research Club, a short time later. Kaneko came suddenly running into the room. She was actually too late for her first class this day, but this here was more important. Issei Hyoudou, she told them, he is back. I have just seen him in the corridor on the way to his class. Rias and Akino were looking at each other in surprise. They had already been so far to consider him dead, after they hadn't found him and he had not appeared yesterday. And secretly they had already been waiting for the police to find his body somewhere or for his parents to declare him missing. What in the world has happened? I think we should talk to him as soon as possible, Rias stated. A few hours later, Issei was walking through the streets on his way home. Then he would meet with Gariel again a short time afterwards, for some more training. He was still thinking about the conversation he had with the devils a few hours before and the one with Murayama before that one, and about all what happened during the last 2 days. As he had seen Matsuda and Motohama at school, he had brought up Yuma, without telling them that she was his girlfriend, however, as Gariel suggested. As if she was only a girl he had met. Just as she had predicted, they could not remember her. Then Hyoudou, of all people, probably the most popular male student, at least under the girls, had appeared in Issei's class and invited him to a meeting with the Occult Research Club, which as he knew now was probably just a cover for Rias Gremory's devil peerage. Kiba was a devil as well, he could feel it. He was someone Issei, along with his 2 friends, had hated out of principle alone 2 days ago, called the prince of the school, swarmed and admired by nearly all girls. Yes, exactly the kind of guy the Issei from 2 days ago would have despised. Now he wasn't so sure what to think of him. He had accepted the invitation. There was hardly a way to avoid them for long, so he could also bring it behind him. What followed was the interrogation session that Rias Gremory called a conversation. Gariel had been right. He would have been screwed if he came here yesterday. With such things in mind, Issei was walking along the streets, until he suddenly sensed something. Another presence was here. It didn't feel like a fallen angel or the devils, but somehow different. He couldn't quite place it. As he looked around he saw the source. It was a young girl, sitting on a bench at the side of the sidewalk. She had long blonde hair. She was really cute actually, he thought, and was wearing a nun outfit. A nun? He asked himself. Oh, excuse me, she asked as she saw Issei looking at her. Could you please tell me how I can get to the church? Issei didn't understand the language she was speaking. Has she arrived yet? Rainer asked. No, the other fallen angel, a tall blue-haired woman, next to her answered. Who exactly was this sacred gear user again? They were both standing at the area surrounding the abandoned church that served them as their local base. Asia Argento, an excommunicated nun. And the wielder of the Twilight Healing, Rainer answered. Lord Cockabille had arranged for her to be placed under our care. And the other guy we are waiting for, Fried Selzen, stray exorcist. A complete lunatic going by his records. But he had been assigned to watch over her. Yet for some reason that idiot had insisted that they travel apart from each other, Rainer cursed, and now she had gotten lost on us. Go look for her, Calawarner, and bring her here. Okay, Rainer, she answered, while spreading her wings and flying off. Issei didn't actually understood a single word of what the girl in front of him was saying. He wasn't even completely sure which language she was speaking. Only that he certainly didn't knew it. But somehow, he couldn't quite explain it himself. He had a good guess what she was talking about. To that came the strange feeling that he had in her presence, that caught his attention about her in the first place. Whatever it was, she was clearly not an average person. Issei suddenly heard a voice talking in his head. Nearly instinctively, he did what the voice was saying. To be honest, it wasn't the first time that he heard it. I am sorry. I just thought you could help me, he heard the girl saying. Issei realized that he suddenly understood her. But how? Telepathy. Of course. Didn't Gariel said that he had this power? Yes, that must be it. I would really like to help you, he answered, hoping that the nun would understand him as well. Oh, you can understand what I am saying, the girl called out now, visibly happy. Oh, well, yes I do, he said, himself being surprised about that fact. I am Issei Hyoudou. I am Asia Argento, she introduced herself in return. It is nice to meet you. I wanted to ask you if you could help me find the church. Find the church? Issei asked, perplexed. A nun trying to find the church. That was certainly something new, he thought. But the only church in the town was. I have just arrived in this town today, and I kind of got lost, she admitted shyly. I have been walking through the town for hours. Please help me. Issei truly didn't know what to think about that. Asia, there is only one church in the town, but it had been abandoned years ago. Are you sure that you want to go there? Yes, I want to. I have been asked to go there for my new mission, she stated. Okay, Issei just said. He had to admit there was something about this girl, and it was not just the strange energy he felt from her. No, somehow she just seemed to radiate kindness and compassion. He wasn't sure. Maybe that he knew this had to do with this telepathy he was developing. Or maybe Asia was just that kind of girl where you could see that she had a good heart. But a part of him suddenly painfully realized he had thought the same way about Yuma. At the first look, she had seemed like that too. Yuma, Rainier, he said to himself. Why did that stupid bitch even had to go out to kill him like that? She had told him that he was a threat to her. Why? Only for the sheer chance that he would one time side against them. He thought, had she not killed him in the first place, he would have just continued his life with going to school every day, spending time with his friends and trying to peek on girls. He wouldn't have to worry about people trying to kill him or about having this devils in his neck and their attempts to recruit him. And by the way, if he truly was that dangerous, why had she never tried to bring him to her side? She was in the perfect position. He would have done anything for her. Was he not worth to bother in her eyes? Bitch. Suddenly he realized what in hell he was thinking. What the heck? He didn't want to join Yuma in whatever crazy group she was part of. Damn it. He had already joined the good guys. Or at least as close to the good guys as he could get. Issei, is everything all right? He heard Asia's voice asking him. You looked as if something is truly worrying you. He concentrated on her and tried to push any thought about Rainier out of his mind. For now, she truly sounded concerned about him, despite knowing him only for a few minutes. It's all right, Asia, he answered. I just had to think about something. Hey Asia, do you want some ice cream? Issei asked her suddenly. He saw that they just came across a parlor. I would like to, but I still have to go to the church. They are waiting for me, she replied. But at the same time her eyes were drifting off to the ice cream shop next to them. I see you really want to. Issei started to laugh a bit. Tell me, have they even given you a special time when you have to arrive? No, but then you can also take a few minutes longer, don't you think? It will hardly make a difference now, right? He pointed at one of the tables in front of the shop and gestured for her to sit down. If you think so, Issei, she said and smiled at him. Hey, it is you, they heard another voice. It was a little boy who had been sitting at one of the neighboring tables. Issei didn't recognize him, but Asia seemed to know the boy. I wanted to thank you for what you did for me earlier, he said to her. Is this your boyfriend? The boy asked her, causing both of them quite some embarrassment. No, I am a sister of the church, she stammered. I cannot have a boyfriend. Asia's face turned downwards. For some reason, she was looking even more ashamed than before. He is just showing me the way through the town, she said quietly. Along with the word sister of the church, Issei felt a wave of pain coming that he knew didn't belong to him. Asia, he thought. There was something not right, and he intended to find out what. It was in this moment that Issei was looking at her, truly looking at her like he would at any other girl. She was pretty, even if she wasn't really the type of girl he would normally go after. Okay, he would go after every girl, he admitted. She just wasn't the type he would normally imagine. Asia had very big bright blue eyes and long blonde hair, an incredible cute face. Her breasts were quite small, but they seemed to be nice looking from what he could make out from the way they were shaping up beneath her clothes. Still, the nun outfit made him feel a bit uneasy. Issei froze and became red in the face as he suddenly realized that he was thinking about her in that way. And she was a nun. His mind turned back to reality. She has helped you? Issei asked the boy. Yes, I fell and was injured. But then she came and she healed me. Healed you? Issei repeated, thinking about Asia giving him first aid. Yes, just like that. Isn't that cool? The boy asked. She is truly an angel, he said. In opposite to what most would think, however, his words caused only another stab in Issei's heart. An angel? Yeah, right. Yuma's face flashed once again into his mind. The boy was still talking to Asia for a few minutes, as they all had sat down. Asia, she truly was a good person. Meeting this boy had only confirmed it. She was friendly. She took the time to help an injured little boy, while she herself was walking around in a town she didn't know. She even seemed to show true concern for him, a guy she had just met and who had just offered to help her out. Besides that, he just knew. Whatever kind of power he was developing, it allowed him to take a shot at what was inside her mind. He had to say she was the most kind and innocent person he had ever met. After a few minutes, the little boy who had been talking with them returned to his own table. Issei, there is something I want to ask you, Asia addressed him. Yes, he replied, curious what she would say. Would you be my friend? She asked. Whatever question Issei had been expecting, this was not it. Your friend? Yes, the truth is, I never had a friend before. What? How can that be? I mean, you are clearly the nicest girl I have ever met. Thank you, she replied, blushing visibly. It is just, I was raised by the church. I never had any family. And then I had this gift. A gift? He asked. Yes, a gift from God. I can heal people just by wanting it. When the church found out about it, I was declared a holy maiden, and that meant I couldn't have any friends. I was always alone, she stated. Issei wasn't exactly sure what to think about this gift. Maybe it had something to do with the energy he was feeling from her. But he was sure about one thing. He was saddened for Asia than anyone before, and he would do everything to make her feel better. Of course I will be your friend, he told her. And he meant it. Thank you, Issei, she answered. The smile she gave him was heartwarming. But another question he had been asking himself was eating at him. Was he, at least on some level, using Asia to distract himself from thinking about Yuma? Was he somehow using Asia to get over her? No, he promised himself he would not. Asia deserved far better than to be treated like this. Hell, not even Yuma deserved that. He suddenly remembered her killing him. Okay, maybe she did deserve it. But he would still not act like this. He would be Asia's friend and for her own sake, not to make himself feel better. So this is where you are, he heard a voice he knew all too well saying. I have already been looking for you. Gariel, he said. Yes, the fallen angel who was training him replied. I thought we wanted to meet when your school was over. I am sorry. I sort of forgot, he stated. He knew how weak of an excuse that was. This is Asia, he introduced her. I have met her in town, he said. Asia, he turned to her. This is Gariel, she is a friend of mine. We actually wanted to meet, but then I met you and… Sorry, Issei, I didn't want to cause any trouble for you, she replied. It is no trouble at all, Asia. Right, Gariel? He asked, but then he realized that she was only staring at Asia without saying anything. Gariel, he asked again. Issei, could I speak to you alone for a moment? She responded. Of course, I will be back in a minute, Asia, he said to her. Okay, Issei, she replied. He and Gariel were walking a short distance away. Issei, do you realize just who this girl is? She asked him. What do you mean? She is Asia. We have just met and become friends. She is a nun from Europe, and she told me that she had a gift of healing from God and became a holy maiden. Issei, don't you get it? She is the sacred gear user we have been luring for the entire time, and you have just run right into her. He was now looking at Gariel with his mouth open. It all made sense, her healing people just by thinking about it. The strange energy radiating from her. Issei slapped his hand in his own face. I am truly an idiot, he stated. How could I not figure this out by myself? You may be an idiot, she responded, smiling warmly at him, but then you are for sure an incredible lucky one. So Issei got a few answers about some of his questions regarding Asia Argento. But what exactly was this voice that he kept hearing? He asked himself. This wasn't even the first time that it suddenly appeared. He now heard the same voice asking him. You, who are you? Issei asked. Moment, partner, you are this dragon. D-Drag, he confirmed. I just didn't expect you to simply speak to me. At least not so early, Issei responded. True, thanks to the telepathic abilities you are developing, it is far easier for us to communicate as it would normally be. They surpass the ones of any angel or devil I know of by far. D-Drag admitted. Aside from that, your powers are developing in an incredible speed now. I have to say, even I am impressed. Issei remembered what happened during his visit to the Occult Research Club, Hyoudou Academy, a few hours earlier. The last class was just over. As they had agreed, Hyoudou was waiting for him just outside of the room. Kiba, he addressed him. You said Rias Gremory senpai wanted to talk to me. Yes, he answered. She is truly interested to meet you. Are you ready to come? He asked him. Of course, Issei replied. Let us bring it behind us, he thought silently. Around them a few students were staring at them. They couldn't understand what a lady like Rias Gremory could want from a known pervert and troublemaker like Hyoudou, and were now forming a small crowd around them. Others were unsettled for a slightly different reason. Okay dude, tell me, what did you do to make someone like Gremory senpai even remotely interested in you? Matsuda shouted at him. Yes, tell us, Madohama fell in. Guys, it is not like you are thinking, Issei replied. She just wants me to join her club, that is all. Tell them Kiba. That is true, he confirmed. I still don't see why someone like Gremory senpai would even show interest in someone like Hyoudou, even if it is only for her club, Kade stated, obviously skeptical why such an exclusive club would be interested in someone like him. The pink-haired girl was a member of the Kendo club and the best friend of Murayama, who was standing next to her at the moment. Issei heard her words. He knew that many in school thought like that. But now, he couldn't help to get angry. A few days back he would have also been flattered, and to be honest, amazed, if Rias had done so much as even looked in his direction. But now, the girl was a devil for heaven's sake, a manipulative bitch who didn't give as much as a second thought about standing by idle and letting him die by the hands of another manipulative bitch, so that she could turn him into her servant without having to ask him. And now she was expecting him to just come to her when she called him, while his own classmates acted as if he was not even worth it. She was the one who wanted him for her group. She was the one who would not leave him alone. So why in the world were they acting as if he was the one who did not deserve it? Oh, he knew perfectly well why. Because she was Rias Gremory and he was only a member of the perverted trio. He knew to a part he had to thank himself for this. Given how he normally acted, he shouldn't be surprised that some of the others reacted like this. Listen Kades, he said. His voice was grim and slightly shaking from suppressed anger. Whatever Rias Gremory wants from me, it is not your damned business. You always beat me down for not respecting your privacy. But you can obviously not accept mine. She is the one who had asked me to come Godamnit. So why am I being the one here questioned like some sort of criminal over this? Everyone around was now staring at him a bit different after his outburst. A few actually slightly ashamed, as if it had never crossed their minds to see things like that. Come on Kades, you have to admit Hyoudou has a point here, Murayama now stated. This is simply not our business. We want him to respect our privacy as well after all, especially in our locker rooms, she said then with a sharper voice in Issei's direction. This brought back a grin on the faces of some of the surrounding students. You have to admit we are acting a bit stupid here, Murayama stated. Let's leave Hyoudou alone and take care of his own things. Thanks Murayama, he said. Do we go now Issei? Kiba asked him. Yes, they left the rest of the students behind, a few of them still whispering with each other. A few were looking after them, especially Murayama, Kades, and Issei's 2 friends. Kiba was leading him through the school, right to the club room of the Occult Research Club. Issei had never been at this part of the school campus before, so he probably wouldn't have found it on his own. Kiba opened a quite opulent-looking double door and led him through. The interior of the club room was more or less like Issei would have imagined it. The room was large, but looked cozy and comfortable, a bit luxurious, and maybe a bit old-fashioned. He recognized the other members of the club, who were sitting on a couch before him, Akino Hanjima, a third year like Rias Gremory herself and another one of the most popular girls at school, and Kaneko Taoju, an also well-known first year. Both of them were devils. The energy he felt from them was very similar to Kiba's. The only person he could not see was the club president. The chief devil, he thought sarcastically. But you will arrive in a minute, Issei-kun, Akino said to him. Why don't you sit down? Issei's eyes wandered between a free place on the couch between two female devils, in an empty armchair close by, standing at the opposite end of the table to another one where Kiba was just sitting down. After a few moments of hesitation, mostly because he got a good look at Akino's figure, Issei chose the armchair instead of next to her and Kaneko. It is nice to meet you, Hyoudou-kun, Akino welcomed him. Thank you, Akino-senpai, the same to you, Issei replied. May I ask where Rias-senpai is? She is the one who invited me after all. Oh, she will come any moment, Akino answered. Why don't we talk to each other for a while? Issei had to admit he was nervous. He was surrounded by devils. Devils who obviously wanted to recruit him for their team and had no qualms about the methods who had no idea what had happened to him and he had no way to know how they would react. In opposite to Asia, he had no real insight into the feelings and motivations of this supernatural beings. It was as if something about them was blocking his newly developed sixth sense. I see you have arrived, Hyoudou-kun, he was greeted by Rias Gremory who had just arrived. He felt his jaw fall down as he took a look at her. She was wearing nothing but a towel. Beneath it, he could see she was completely naked. I am happy that you could make it, she told him. I am sorry you had to wait, but as you see I came just out of the shower. Issei was caught between his urge to look at her body and being gobsmacked about her actually thinking he would buy it that it was a coincidence that she just happened to shower while he arrived here. Still, as he saw the form of her body lining up under the towel, for a split second he began to doubt if it had not been a mistake not to join her, before he came back to his senses. What did you want to talk with me about, Gremory-senpai? He asked. Please wait a minute, I want to get myself clothed first. I can hardly change right here in front of you, right? She gave him a smile that normally would drive him insane, had he not been so nervous about the situation he was in. And that not because her lack of clothes. Akino, would you help me here? She asked. About a minute later it was over and a fully clothed Rias Gremory was sitting in front of him. Tell me, Issei, is everything all right? She asked him. I have heard that you have been missing school yesterday. I am okay. I was just not feeling well the last day, he replied. Really? She asked knowingly. Issei, you can talk with me openly. Something in her voice changed. I know that something happened to you during your date 2 days ago. I'm not sure what exactly it was. What? How do you know that? He asked innocently. How do you even know I was on a date? Yes, how would you? Unless of course you had me followed the entire time, he thought silently. He knew all that already, but he didn't let it show. Issei, she said, I want to tell you the whole truth. I was trying to protect you. Protect me? He asked incredulous. This time his surprise was not entirely faked. I have heard that you have been asking about a girl named Yuma Amano. That nobody could remember her. Yes, he simply replied. Everybody claimed that I must just dreamed her up or something, he said with a light grin. I assure you that she certainly exists, Rias answered. She stood up and picked something from her desk that she handed him. It was a photo. It showed him and Yuma walking together on a street. He took in the details. He knew when this was. Whatever reaction the devils had hoped to achieve, the one they would get was the exact opposite. Issei, Rias continued, ... The truth is, I am a devil. Once again he was somewhat surprised about her open admission, but pretended not to believe her. Oh, that is a good one, Rias-senpai, he said and forced himself to laugh. As an answer, she just materialized her wings. Interesting. Though, they were different from the ones of the fallen angels. More bat-like instead like the ones of birds. Oh, okay. I guess this has to convince me, Issei stated. So you are really a devil. She nodded. You should know there are 3 great factions, the devils, the angels, and the fallen. She essentially repeated the same story about the factions and the great war he had already heard, and told him once again about the sacred gears and that Yuma was a fallen angel. All in all, nothing new there. Then, however, she came to a part he found interesting. She mentioned how fallen angels were sometimes hunting down and killing sacred gear users. I was pretty sure that she was trying to kill you, Rias said in this moment. So I interfered to save you. I sent someone to give you a certain flyer before your date started. You remember that, right? Now Issei was the one nodding at her. Inside of it was a so-called summoning card. If you were dying and wished to stay alive, you would have activated it and it would have allowed me to transport myself to you. I could have saved your life then by turning you into a devil. You would have become my servant and could have joined our club. I would have protected you from then on. I am still willing to if you accept. She let him take in her words. But something went wrong. I don't even know what it was, she admitted. I know your life was in danger, Issei, but something happened and kept me from helping you. I know that something happened during your date. I wanted to ask you what it could have been. Issei stood up from the place he was sitting. You know, he said, looking at the photo that showed him in Rainier, I remember this. It was on the day when I first met her, several days before our date. Why exactly do you have such a picture? He asked her pointedly. How long exactly have you known who Yuma was? Rias didn't answer for a few moments, obviously not expecting such a question. She also didn't expect Issei Hyoudou, a normal high school student, to call out someone who had just revealed herself to be a devil like that. So let me get this straight, Issei pointed out. You have known about her for days. You have just told me that you expected her to kill me. Yet you didn't warn me. You could have sent Kiba to get me a few days ago and told me all this. Instead you chose to let me get murdered and then try to turn me into a devil and into your servant. And you call that saving me? Rias was now dumbfounded, not only because of his answer that was by far not what she had expected, but also because he should have still been in shock about the revelation what she was, that a supernatural being was standing right in front of him. Instead he barely seemed to react to it. Did he maybe already know what they were and was just acting along? Or maybe Hyoudou wasn't who he claimed to be? Another thought came to her. You already knew what we are, didn't you? She asked him. Now it was Issei who didn't say anything for a few seconds. Everybody else looked similar surprised about this. Yes, he finally admitted. She did try to kill you. But somehow you survived and found out about everything, Rias concluded. In some sense yes, he stated. You know, we could still protect you from the fallen angels. If you would join my peerage we can keep them from ever attacking you again, she told him. So now you are actually trying to ask me. Now, he responded. He could barely believe the nerve of that girl. And he could not believe that he used to look up to her so much, just like everybody else at this school. Look, Issei, she said, I know we are not perfect. Far from it, I know that. But the fallen angels have tried to kill you. You admitted that yourself and they might try again. So you should at least consider it. Even if you are angry at me, we are still the only ones in the town who can protect you from them. You think so? He replied. A moment later he realized that he had probably said too much. What do you mean by that? She questioned. I don't have to tell you anything, he said. Issei, this town is my territory. If someone else is active here, I should know about it. Your territory, he exclaimed. If this is your territory, why didn't you bother to lift a finger when I was killed? Too late he realized what he had just let slip. What? Rias asked. The others were looking at him in open surprise as well. He just admitted that he indeed died. Yes, I guess there is no longer a reason to hide it, Issei admitted. There is someone else out there, someone who don't expect a price like eternal servitude for saving a life. They let me decide if I want to join them or not. And will you? She asked. I am not sure yet, he answered truthfully. There is still one more thing, Rias told him. After all you have just said, how can we be sure that you are still the same person as 2 days ago? What do you mean? He questioned. Maybe you have been replaced, she stated. Imagine someone could have killed or captured the real Issei Hyoudou and replaced him with some sort of double, an infiltrator. Kiba, she said. Issei suddenly heard a voice in his head. He saw that Kiba suddenly had a sword in his hand and was swinging it in his direction. Before Issei was even fully aware of it, his body reacted. His sacred gear materialized on his arm. It was a simple test, Kiba on his part knew. He was supposed to stop his blade just a short distance in front of Hyoudou's throat, just to make completely sure that he hadn't been, as Butchu said, replaced. But things turned out a bit different. Issei heard the voice again. It repeated this simple word. He easily blocked Kiba's sword with his sacred gear, nearly on instinct, and then landed a hard punch on the obviously surprised devil. This punch was much stronger than anything a regular human should be capable of and sent Kiba flying through the room. Issei's own energy was now showing itself. To all their surprise, however, it seemed still human, only incredible powerful. Kaneko had already moved to help her comrade, but suddenly she noticed something. Hyoudou was not simply using his sacred gear, he was also using some form of senjutsu, or something very similar, a form that she had never heard of before, and that realization made her stop in her tracks in complete shock. She instead kept her distance and was just watching Hyoudou carefully. Who? What are you? Rias asked now, completely unsettled as well over the display. What the hell was that? Issei thought nearly at the same time. That voice, and he could barely believe what he just did to Kiba of all people. Akino was looking at Kiba, who to their relief didn't seem to be injured. I assure you that I am Issei Hyoudou. Not as you said, an imposter, he told her. But the people who have resurrected me have also shown me how to activate my sacred gear. And they teach me other things to protect me from the fallen angels. And from you. You don't need protection from us, Rias exclaimed. We are not trying to kill you. This here was just a test. No, he answered, you are just standing by and let others do it. And then try to turn me when I can no longer refuse. I have seen nothing that convinced me that you wouldn't also go one step further. Right now I see little difference between you and them. She visibly flinched at his words. I am sorry, she told him. So am I, Issei responded. I can assure you one thing, the people who have brought me back are not planning anything against you. And neither do I, he added. I am not your enemy, Rias, and I don't want to be. But I won't join you. So please stop following me around and spying on me. I will leave now. Or do you have another question? No, she answered. Well, that couldn't have gone any worse, he heard Aquino commenting as he had just left the room. XXXXXXX. Now, back in the present, he and Gariel were still standing together close to the ice cream parlor where Asia was waiting for them, talking with each other. Issei, someone is coming, Gariel stated. Do you sense it? Yes, is it someone like me? She said. Rainier, or a member of her team, Issei stated. On some level he noticed that for the first time he had called her by her true name. And they are here for Asia, he realized. Yes, Gariel answered. We better get ready. Issei, she proclaimed, I have an idea. XXXXXXX. A short time later, Issei was once again sitting with Asia in front of the small shop. Gariel was close by, but not openly to see. From some distance away, however, another new pair of eyes was watching them. Warner had to say she was not exactly in a good mood. Far from it. She had now spent a few hours searching for that girl, not to mention having to deal with Rainier's own bad mood. And where did she find the little bitch? Sitting here happily chatting with a boy. And that is a nun. The little slut had obviously no shame at all. Maybe she should teach her a lesson before bringing her back, she thought. Both of them were standing up in this moment and walking away side by side. After a short time more, Warner saw that they were now entering the park, and nobody else was around at this time of the day. Perfect. XXX. Issei admitted he hated this part of Gariel's plan. It was back right here, in the park at evening. The sun was slowly beginning to set, and he was about to be attacked by a fallen angel. So here you are, they heard the voice of a woman addressing them, and I have been looking for you everywhere. Issei saw that it was a tall woman with blue hair and an impressive pair of assets that were pressed in an outfit that seemed at least 2 numbers too tight for her. She was clearly a fallen angel. Her presence felt very similar to Gariel's. As it looks, you have found a way to spend your time though, the woman said, looking at Issei. No, you misunderstand this, Asia replied. Issei was just helping me to find the way. Oh really? It didn't look like that as you two were sitting together. You didn't seem to be in a hurry to come to the church at all, she commented. The church, Issei thought. Maybe there were a few other things he should ask Asia. But now was not the time for this. We were just eating an ice cream, Asia told her. Eating ice, the woman repeated mockingly. Maybe I should take care of your boyfriend here, so that you will not get distracted again. Before Asia could say anything else, Issei stepped forward. I don't know who you are, lady, but if you want to cause trouble for Asia, you can make it out with me, he stated. Oh really? She replied. If you say so. As she said this, she let her wings appear on her back and began to form a spear of light in her hand, like Yuma did before. Then she threw the spear at him. Issei, however, materialized his boosted gear and used it to deflect the attack. What the? Warner called out as she saw what just happened. Before she could finish her sentence, Issei had already moved forward and punched her in the gut. The fallen angel tried to fight back, but she was taken completely by surprise here. And so Issei landed blow after blow on her. Suddenly the boy materialized a sword in his hand, what caught her off guard even more. And she barely managed to dodge his first strike. Whatever this boy was, he was no normal human. Issei smiled. Gariel had just showed him how to do that just before this fight. Another nasty surprise came for Warner as her opponent, right in the middle of the fight, seemed to grow much stronger from one moment to the other. Had he been holding back before, she wasn't able to hear the simple word coming from the sacred gear. Then, as she had just evaded another strike from his sword, he landed another vicious punch on her with his other hand where he had his gear materialized, and sent her crashing to the ground. You bastard, she hissed, struggling in vain to stand up. You are the one who attacked me, Issei stated. Who in the world are you? She asked him. My name is Issei Hyoudou, he replied. You have heard of me. She indeed remembered that name. Impossible. But before either of them could say anything else, another surprise appeared. This time a positive one for the fallen, as Issei was suddenly kicked in the side and sent crashing to the ground himself. As Warner looked up, she saw another fallen angel she didn't know. Who are? Azazel sent me to keep an eye on your group, the stranger stated. My name is Gariel. As it looks I came just at the right time. Let us get out of here, she told her. What? I need the girl, Warner called out. Don't even think about it. You are dead weight as you are now. And I don't know if I can take this guy alone, Gariel said, looking at Issei who just came up again. Be glad that I am even here to save your ass. One of our soldiers should not go down so easy against a human, even if he has a sacred gear. Come on. She grabbed the injured Warner and lifted her off, flying away with her. As they left, Issei looked after them, Asia standing a few meters behind him. He smiled. It seemed Gariel's plan was working out. XXXXXXX. A short time later the now 2 fallen angels returned to the church. Rainier was already waiting for them, in an even worse mood than before, and now more than surprised as she saw them. Warner, what in the world happened to you? She asked as she noticed what state her comrade was in. And who are you? My name is Gariel, special agent for Azazel, she lied. I have just found your friend here as she had some trouble with a sacred gear user. Sacred gear user? Rainier exclaimed. What sacred gear user? Who was he? She asked Warner irritated. She had already taken care of the only one who should have been in this area, she thought. She visibly hesitated with her answer, for good reason. He said his name was Issei. Issei Hyoudou, she finally said. And Rainier felt as if the world was crashing down on her. This couldn't be. She grabbed Calawarner by the collar. Nonsense, she called out. That can't be, and you know that. I killed Issei Hyoudou, you hear me? I killed him. That is indeed what he said his name was, Gariel confirmed, and before you bring it up, I assure you he was under guarantee, not a devil. Issei Hyoudou, Rainer thought. Why did that name seem to keep following her? The small group of fallen angels was still standing at the edge of the roof of the abandoned church building. To say that these three, Rainer, the beaten-up Calawarner, and the new arrival Gariel were in a complicated situation would be an understatement. For one, there was the state Calawarner was in, and even more who she said was responsible for it, Issei Hyoudou. A boy who should be dead. He can't be alive, Rainer thought. It was impossible. The wound she caused him was deadly, she was sure of it, and she already sensed his life force fleeing his body when she left him. But now not only one but two people told her that there was a sacred gear user here, calling himself by that name. Was this really Issei? She asked herself. Or someone or something else. A trick maybe, a ruse. But why? Her first thought would have been, of course, that the devils had somehow gotten a hold of him and reincarnated him. That was the original reason why she had gone through such lengths to get close to him, to lure him to a remote place where they would be alone, far away from them. But both Calawarner and the newcomer had confirmed that this was definitely not the case. And two fallen angels would of course recognize a devil when they saw one. So how was he brought back? If it was really him, of course. The picture of a young boy came to her mind, the same boy who she went on a date with the purpose to kill him. One who in his clumsy way tried to give her a good time, appreciated her, cared for her, tried to make her happy. She pushed the thought down instantly. What the hell was she thinking about? Damn it, she didn't need affection from some human brat. And least of all one who spent a good part of his time staring at her breasts and wished nothing more than to grab and fondle them. To her shame, Rainer realized that for a short moment her body is feeling hot at the thought. But, somehow she just couldn't help it. She of course knew perfectly well about Issei's perverted nature, and she admitted, a small part of her was actually impressed that he had kept it in check so well around her. Not that it mattered at all. Why did it all have to come back to this? She asked herself. Issei Hyoudou was a potential dangerous threat to them, even Lord Azazel believed so. That was why he had sent her to observe him. And as long as she had to spend her time watching over him, she could not concentrate on her scheme involving Asia. Issei had been in her way and a danger to them. His feelings, or even her own, on the matter were not important. She did what she had to do. Rainer had thought she let this matter behind her once and for all. She felt anger rising up in her. And opposite to what one could think, it didn't anger her that he might still be alive, or even that he was interfering with her plan. No, it angered her that she had done all that in vain, that she went that far to seduce and murder him, that she had pushed herself to do that, and then it was all for nothing. It was like a slap in the face. Right in this moment, however, they had other things to deal with. One of them was standing directly in front of them, namely the fallen angel who was not part of their group, who was standing right in front of her right now. And that could mean problems. You are working for Azazel-sama, you said. Rainer addressed her. Yes, I do, Gariel replied. And it seems you have some problems here, she commented, looking at Calawarner. Gariel knew this part of her story could cause trouble if this Rainer or Yuma should come to the idea to contact the fallen angel leaders and ask for confirmation. She already had a telepathic conversation with the boss about this part of their plan, and he had promised her to contact the Azazel of this world to give her some backup for the deception. Like you are one to talk, Calawarner called out. Rainer, she had just left Asia Argento behind. With that boy, she had not even tried to get her back with us. Don't blame me for your failures, Gariel retorted. You were already beaten when I stepped in. I only interfered to save you. And by the way, as I recall, that girl was completely willing to come with you peacefully, until you had to make senseless threats to the boy and start a fight. Who was that girl anyway, and why are you so interested in her? She asked. Asia Argento, isn't this the name of a sacred gear user I have heard of? She questioned. But last I heard she wasn't supposed to be anywhere in this country, wasn't she? Gariel had a knowing smile on her face as she looked at the other two. When there had ever been a moment when Rainer wanted to strangle her old friend, it was now. Why in the world could Calawarner not simply have kept her mouth shut? But no, she just had to blat out Asia's name in front of someone who was not supposed to know she was here. No, until a short time ago she wasn't, Rainer admitted. She had been sent to us recently. Interesting. I admit I haven't known about this, Gariel stated. Who exactly had authorized to bring her here, if you allow me to ask? Kakabeel-sama did, Rainer answered this part without hesitation. Since you are working directly for Lord Azazel, you have possibly not heard about it, she suggested. So Kakabeel, you say? She questioned. The same smile was still on her face. Rainer, she said to her in a friendly but demeaning manner, cut the crap. You don't need to tell me what you are doing here. I have already a good idea. Do you think I have not heard the talk under the troops about the ideas to take sacred gears from their users? And I also know how precious especially the twilight healing would be for our kind. What exactly are you suggesting here? Rainer asked her, playing dumb. It is quite simply, she stated, about your plan. I want in. This statement clearly surprised the other fallen angels. What? I thought you are working for Azazel. Calawarner questioned. Azazel-sama knows the worth of the twilight healing for our race just as well as any of us, Gariel responded with a stern look. But he is caught in the politics with the other factions, and as our leader he has to hold up, well, certain moral standards, even if the rest of us do not. That is why he can't openly approve. But we all know he will thank us later if we secure the twilight healing for our kind. You mean if there is an us? Rainier countered. But I guess we have not much choice here, she commented. If you don't want me to tell Azazel what you are doing. Not much, no, Gariel pointed out. Okay, Rainier gave in. Come with me. I will introduce you to the others. She invited her inside with a gesture, but then she stopped her in the movement. But let me make one thing clear, she stated. The one who carries the twilight healing will be me. Something about her expression was different from a moment before. It was stern and deadly serious. For some reason this matter seemed really important for her. I have no problem with that, Gariel replied. There are other sacred gears. Many of them might suit me better. My real interests are actually somewhere else, she said. The other one called Calawarner had already gone inside. Good. Some things are better being said under four eyes. What I truly want, Gariel told her, is to actually watch the extraction ceremony of the sacred gear itself. This actually seemed to surprise Rainier. And why? She responded. You should know that my group has for some time been experimenting on the principles of the workings and use sacred gears. And we have also been researching more effective and safer ways to remove them if the need should ever come up. Really? She stated dryly, but now sounding somewhat interested. Of course, since sacred gear users are rare, we have only seldom the chance to study on the living subject. To actually see and watch over the extraction procedure is a chance I wouldn't miss. To be honest, I would like to assist you. Oh, it seems we have gotten ourselves an expert here, Rainier responded. She did not even try to hide the sarcasm in her voice. Be honest, Rainier, Gariel countered. Tell me, have you ever removed a sacred gear before? She asked. Do you know the risk of it going wrong and losing both the user and the object? The other Fallen didn't respond, but the short, barely recognizable flinch on her face was telling enough to Gariel. As I thought, seriously, I would have been surprised if you had, she stated, and slightly worried. After all, such a sacred gear extraction is not something you would do every day, right? I know more about the process than you will probably ever do. I have actually participated in it before. You can use my help. Rainier now looked as if she at least seriously considered her words. We can talk about it later, Gariel offered. First, introduce me to the rest of our team. At the same time, Asia, who was still beside Issei, was now at the other side of the town. They had tried to get as much distance between the park and them as possible. Now Issei faced another problem, and that was one simple question. Where to go with her now? She had still no place to stay. That and people were after her. Their last conversation with Gariel was now over an hour ago. She had told him that this would be probably their best chance to do it and gave him some last instructions. That included one last telepathic transfer of knowledge. It, in this case, meant her idea to infiltrate Yuuma's group. Sadly, they didn't have much time to talk and couldn't make a concrete plan where to hide Asia. Still, the chance was too good to pass up, and so she said that she would leave this to him. To him, he thought. Great decision, Gariel, he thought sarcastically, as if he had any idea what to do. The easiest idea would be to bring her home, tell his parents about her situation, the part about having no place to sleep for this night, of course, not the one about the fallen angels chasing her, and ask them if she can stay at their house for the night. But the problem here was that Yuuma knew where he lived. If they were searching for her, it would obviously be one of the first places they would look. Think Issei, think, he told himself, but nothing came to his mind. He knew he wasn't the brightest sometimes, but right now he cursed his lack of imagination. Where could he bring her? Asking Rias Gremory for help was completely out of question. As a high-ranked devil, she would never simply give shelter to a member of the other factions. Even Issei knew that, and with their latest confrontation, the chances were even worse. If he could offer something in exchange, then maybe. But what? Who else? Matsud or Madohama? No, they would probably try to molest poor Asia as soon as they saw her. But they still seemed to be the safest bet. Maybe if he would stay as well, he could keep them under control. Yes, maybe. But then another thought came to him. Yuuma, no, Rainier, had, as he had been told, been observing him for some time. Who said that she didn't know where they lived as well. If she had been watching him, this was actually more than likely. What should he do? Gariel had also informed Asia about what the Guardians believed the fallen angel group had planned for her. Taking her sacred gear. That would cause her death. They would be killing her. Asia herself accepted her words with a sad expression, and to Issei's shock, something that seemed to be resignation. It was nearly as if she was not even surprised about the revelation that the people who took her in after her excommunication from the church were planning to kill her. But she had also eagerly accepted their offer to stay with them for the time being. Or better said, to stay with Issei, who was her first and only friend. The person who meant most to her. XXX. A part of Issei was burning in rage that Yuuma would actually consider doing something like that to Asia. Of course, she had already killed him before, so he should have a good idea what she is capable of. But Asia, someone so innocent. But he also remembered the other things Gariel had told him. That it was dangerous to let your feelings, especially your anger, overcome you and affect your judgment. You are getting a tunnel vision and can only see the evil that is right in front of you, as she had explained to him. This was not their way. If he decided that he wanted to remain with the Guardians, he would have to overcome that impulse. Yes, Asia was his friend. Yes, she was a kind-hearted and probably the most innocent person he knew. But he couldn't expect the fallen angels to know her personally and value her like he did. Just because he cared about her didn't make the fallen angels planning to kill her automatically worse, as if they did it to any other innocent person. He needed to get over himself here. That was at least how she said it to him. But Gariel had also told him that she would do something to keep Asia safe, that she would try to keep Rainier from doing it. Could that really work? He asked himself. Or was it too much asked for? Issei had by now made up his mind. He had decided to bring Asia to his home after all. What other choice did he have? They would ask his parents if she could stay for the night. And when Asia told them her story, how he had found her walking through the town without any idea where to go to, they would hardly say no. At least his home was warded. That and at least some protection from anyone just teleporting inside. If any of the fallen angels showed up, he would just have to defend her and do everything that his parents wouldn't get in the crossfire. He hated to get them involved into this. But now that both the devils and the fallen knew that he was still alive, this would probably happen anyway. Suddenly he felt a sharp pain in his head. Issei, are you all right? Asia asked him, worried. It is okay, he said. He knew that he wasn't sounding too convincing. Drake spoke to him. You can say that. This headache. He spoke mentally. The dragon replied. You mean this is because of what Gariel did? Issei questioned. Drake stated. But to be honest, without it you would probably feeling even worse right now. The real problem is still that you have two different sources of power that don't interact well with each other. The information this angel had placed into your mind is actually the only thing that allows you to control them so far. I thought that problem was solved. It was stabilized for the moment. But the powers you are developing are just too strong and they are growing uncontrollable. I will tell it to you plainly. Something strange is going on. What do you mean by that? Issei asked, a bit confused. To put it simply, your powers are not working like they are meant to. You remember the incident during your talk with those devils, as your sacred gear suddenly activated? Of course I remember, he replied, not really wanting to talk about this topic. It wasn't supposed to work like this. It gave you multiple power boosts at the same time. My boosted gear isn't supposed to work like that, unless you have reached the level called Balance Breaker. Isn't that a good thing? Issei asked sheepishly. He could literally hear the dragon growling as he shouted the answer into his head. It would be, if that was the end of it. But beside that there are also other things. For example, that we are even talking with each other, despite that you shouldn't have that ability yet. Or that you were able to understand a new language within a few seconds, despite having no devil or fallen angel magic. Or the fact that I have beaten a devil and a fallen angel after less than 2 days of training, Issei stated with more than just some measure of pride. Don't let this get to your head, partner. They were caught off guard and underestimated you. The next time will be harder. Not that they know what you are capable of, Drake pointed out. But that isn't what I am talking about. It seems that your two powers are mixing together, influencing each other, with unpredictable results. And not only that, they are developing in an incredible rate. As far as I can tell it, you are growing stronger every day, maybe even every hour. And how again is that not a good thing? Issei asked him. The dragon explained to him. Really? Cool. And the other? He wanted to know. Drake stated, he added. What? Issei called out. He spoke this loud, so that Asia, who was still standing close by, looked at him worried. Issei, she asked concerned. I am okay, he answered. No, he was not, he thought silently. Calm down, partner. That is exactly what we are working on now, to prevent that from happening. To make that clear, your training is not simply about getting stronger. It is about controlling the powers you are developing and prevent that from happening. The headaches came back. In fact, they were getting worse and Issei was holding his head. But this time it was not only them. He suddenly felt confused and disoriented. Issei stumbled forward. He heard Asia calling out to him one last time. Then he could no longer see her. Issei saw that he was no longer with her. The abandoned church. At the inside, the others were waiting for them. Besides Calla Warner, there were 2 more fallen angels that she had not seen before. One of them was a man in a trench coat, the other a very young-looking blonde-haired girl in a gothic Lolita outfit. These are Donasik, Rainier introduced them, pointing at the man, and Middelt. She gestured to the girl. And who is this? The man called Donasik asked, looking at the new fallen they didn't know. This is Gariel. She was sent here by Lord Azazel, Rainier said, hoping that the others would get the hint. She has decided to join our operation. So one more, eh? He commented dryly. That's okay with me, as long as we get the job done. Hey, Middelt greeted her and gave her a friendly wink with her hand along with a bright smile. She actually sounded a bit like a little girl. Somehow the gesture felt in Gariel's opinion just as much creepy as it was cute. There was however another person present at the other side of the room, leaning with his back against the wall. This one wasn't a fallen angel. No, he was human, a young man with light blonde, nearly white hair, dressed in clothes of cleric origins. He was wearing a long dark blue coat with gold-colored sleeves over plain-looking light gray shirt and trousers. Around his neck was the typical collar of a priest. But his appearance was not the actually unusual thing about him. The corrupted form of power that was radiating from him and the few psychic impressions she was able to get from his well-shielded mind were more sinister than of any of the fallen angels here. This man was clearly an exorcist, but a very twisted and insane version of one. This is Fried Selzen, formerly of the Catholic Church, Rainier introduced him. I guess you have heard the name before. She indeed did. One of the most infamous stray exorcists in this world. As he was still part of the church, he was said to be a genius, one of the most talented exorcists of his generation. He had been efficient and brutal. More brutal than efficient actually. Stray exorcists were former priests who had been excommunicated. In Fried Selzen's case because of his cruel methods and because it became more and more clear that his motives were pure sadism and the wish to kill than faith in God. He was not the only one. On their way here she had introduced a few others, obviously also stray exorcists. There had to be an entire group of them here. Nice to meet you, Fried Selzen said to her. Likewise, she responded. She did not even try to sound convincing. It was obvious to her on the first look that the other fallen angels around didn't like this guy any more than she did. The girl angel named Metal was looking at him with discomfort. Rainer on the other hand did it with nearly open rage. So you have decided to join the team, right? Fried remarked. Have you made sure that she can be trusted, Rainer? You are hardly one to talk here, Selzen. It was your job to bring the girl here. Instead you let her travel alone and now we have lost her, she accused him. It was told to me that I was her bodyguard, not a babysitter, he retorted, not sounding concerned at all, as if all of this was not truly his business. It is not my fault that the little bitch was too stupid to find her way here. Being around her the entire time would have only drawn attention and I had other things to do. These other things, Rainer remarked, did not happen to involve some random killing or torturing, did it? Well, now that you mention it, he said with a grin. Oh, calm down. We will just all go out and find her. How difficult can that be? She is not alone, Warner pointed out. Someone, a sacred gear user, is helping her. Even better, Fried replied. The sadistic smile on his face only deepened. So we can kill this guy. Finally, the chance for some real fun. For a split second, Rainer had the irrational urge to stop him, but only for a moment. Warner will tell you now everything she had seen and then we will search the entire town and find her, she announced. Outside, a few minutes later, most of the fallen angels and also Fried Selzen were already gone. The rest of the exorcists would stay behind as guards. Only 2 fallen angels were still present, at least for the moment. They too would join the search in a few minutes, but before that they still had something to discuss. Rainer, Guriel said. The woman she had just addressed turned around to her. Oh yes, you offered to assist me in the procedure, but you have to admit, you suddenly show up here out of nowhere and offer me help that would improve my chances to success. You understand that this sounds a little bit unlikely. Do you really just want to watch the process? Is this your only motivation? This reaction didn't surprise her. It matched perfectly with her impression of this woman, paranoid and distrustful, but also very passionate and determined to the cause of the fallen angels, and also to her own goals. But it was the sort of determination that could drive someone to kill. This plan here proved that all too well. She claimed loyalty to the fallen angel leaders, especially Azazel, who she seemed to admire. But she was willing to do this here behind his back, lying behind all that seemed to be a very deep-rooted and overwhelming craving for attention and especially affection. The leather outfit Rainer was wearing certainly matched with that idea. If this girl wasn't crying for attention, she didn't know what it was. In some sense she was a living contradiction. Guriel could only hope that the positive aspects of her personality would win out this time. That would make everything much easier. I admit there is something else, she said. I of course want a sacred gear for myself, a powerful one. But it doesn't have to be twilight healing. If you allow me the question, why do you even want this one gear so much? I have my own reasons, she stated. Of course, Guriel replied casually. Rainer, tell me one thing. If I would tell you that there was a way to remove the sacred gear, but let the girl live, what would you say? For a few moments, Rainer didn't say anything. But her surprise was obvious, even if she did her best to hide it. I guess you are talking about one of this new more effective methods you have been talking about. She questioned then. Why should I trust you on this? The method works, Guriel responded. We already had removed one sacred gear, successfully, at the wish of the owner himself who wanted to get rid of it. But that was already some time ago. Oh yes, which sacred gear was that? Rainer asked distrustful. Noah's Gate, she answered. You have heard of it. She indeed had. It was a well-known sacred gear. One that the last user had disappeared several years ago and that then suddenly showed up again, in the hands of a new owner, only a short time later. One who had already been a young man. What should be impossible, since sacred gears were only reincarnated into newborns, unless. You shouldn't think that I am sentimental, Guriel continued speaking. You know none of us are. But if you had the option to either kill this girl to get the sacred gear or not to kill her with the same result, what would you do? For some reason, for a short moment, Issei's face was flashing in Rainer's mind. Guriel on the other side was silently cheering in triumph at the inside. A small telepathic suggestion, when Rainer's mental defenses were already weakened. And she knew she had her, somewhere else. As Issei was able to see again, he nearly fell into panic. Wherever he was clearly not in the place he had been a moment before. In fact, he was clearly not even in Kyoto anymore. No, this was a much larger town. He could make out skyscrapers and other large buildings that were extending till the horizon. How in the world did he get here? Was this what Diedrich had been worried about? Had his powers suddenly activated and send him here? Wherever this here was, Asia. He realized that she was no longer with him. But then, as he really took in his surroundings, he saw that this was probably for the best. He was standing in the middle of a battlefield. The town. He recognized some of his surroundings. He remembered seeing some of the buildings in the distance on TV. It was Tokyo. How in the world did he suddenly come from Kyoto, the Japanese capital? But it was not simply any battle that was going on around here. What he was seeing was just unbelievable. This was a fight between supernatural beings, two groups that were clashing with each other. And there was something else. He actually understood everything that was going on around him, when it was clear to him that he shouldn't understand anything at all. At one side he saw two men fighting each other with swords. Both of them were making movements faster than any normal person could see. But that was the least unusual thing here. And not every one of them was human. He saw one bizarre being with large claws and a face that only consisted of white eyes and sharp teeth, like a cross between a reptile and a fish. There was a woman with the ears and the tail of a cat. She was a Nekomata, but Issei wasn't even aware how he knew this detail. He noticed a figure standing under them he knew all too well. The same man who had resurrected him, the man calling himself Darian. Instead of the unremarkable gray suit he had seen him in the last time, he was now wearing a futuristic-looking sort of armor. Issei realized who this people had to be. A group of members of the Guardians, and the other one were their mysterious enemies. He tried to call out to them, but they didn't seem to hear him. They didn't even react. Next to Darian was standing a tall man in a red coat with shoulder-long dark hair. At a closer look, Issei saw that his eyes were glowing bright red and his canines were long and sharp. Spreading from his body was a black substance, or maybe it was a form of energy that he controlled, that was flowing from him like a living shadow and reforming itself into different shapes, like spears, blades, or tentacles, that were attacking his enemies for him. As he moved one hand, a wave of fire appeared out of nowhere and burned a couple of warriors who were standing against him to ash. But this, Issei knew, was only the slightest fraction of this man's power. If he wanted, he could have devastated this planet with one move. He was one of the strongest under the Guardians. But Issei didn't know how he knew this. And opposite to Darian, fighting him, stood a tall young man with black hair. He was wearing a similar sort of armor, only his was colored black instead of light gray like his opponent. Like Darian, he was looking like a regular human. But he was a being of cosmic powers, rivaling the strongest beings Issei's universe knew of. As the powers of these two beings clashed, the space around them itself was bending to their will. They were sending fire, ice, pure energy, and other elements at each other. They were moving large objects with the help of telekinesis and threw them at each other. At one point of the fight, they were multiplying their bodies into nearly a dozen copies, each fighting in a different way. At another, Darian's opponent created a black hole that could have ripped the planet apart. But Darian dissolved it before it caused any damage. And both of them were doing other things that Issei was not even able to describe. Issei knew at some level that these entities, there was no other way to call them, were actually using a part of their power to keep the planet from breaking apart under the energy they unleashed. Still, the outfall was terrible. The earth was shaking. Entire lines of houses were crumbling around them. In some distance, Issei saw how a man was being thrown into a building. To his surprise, however, he didn't break through the walls. He just passed through them without actually touching them, like a ghost. It reminded him of something that happened during his training with Gariel. He managed to land a hit, but his sword just passed through her body without actually touching it. Phasing, she had called this technique. Simply put, she was transferring the mass of her body out of this dimension for a short moment. She had, however, admitted that she could do it only for a second. This guy here was clearly much better in it than her. The whole battle was a single show of madness. Both sides were using supernatural attack at each other. Fighters were teleporting from one end of the town to the other. The entire district of the town was standing in flames. Was this the war Darian and Gariel had told him about? And then suddenly everything was over. A second later, Issei found himself back where he had been before. Issei, he heard Asia's voice. Issei, he realized that was again standing right next to him. Asia, he said. Yes, Issei, you can hear me. What is with you? The nun asked him. And don't tell me you are okay. You are clearly not. Asia, I was suddenly gone. Yes, you were. You were just standing there, not moving or saying anything for nearly a minute, she told him. What? I was not longer here. I was. He realized the full implications of what she was saying. You say I was actually standing here the entire time? Yes, Drake told him. What happened? Issei asked him. You mean, nothing what I have just seen was real? Oh, it certainly happened. To that fallen angel Gariel, or maybe to someone who had once passed this memory to her like she did to you. I guess this is simply another side effect of the continued telepathic transfers. But the last time Gariel did that was already a few hours ago, Issei countered. Your brain probably just needed some time to process all that information. Then that happened, the memory was replaying itself inside your mind. A memory? When did this happen? Issei asked himself. If Tokyo had been devastated like that at one point, everyone would know it. But nobody here did, because this hadn't been their Tokyo, he realized. That battle happened in another universe. I see, he replied. Issei, he heard someone calling to him. As he turned around, he saw Gariel, who was flying above them and was just gliding down to land next to them. You are back, he said. Yes, and I had success, she stated. You mean? Yes, your girlfriend has agreed to my offer. Asia, you can come with me now. She was looking at the nun. Moment, Issei called out. You mean you actually want to go back there with her? Of course, there was the plan. What have you thought? Did you seriously think we two alone could hide her somewhere in the town without causing even more problems? And where would that be? I was just bringing Asia home, he answered. To your house. That is the first place they would look. At least it is warded and Issei tried to argue, and that would barely hold them back. And your parents would be put in danger as well. That is exactly what we have been talking about. We don't endanger 2 or 3 people to protect one. You are not thinking rationally here. You know what? You are right, I am not thinking rationally when it comes to Asia. I am worried like hell for her. She won't be in any greater danger there as she would be anywhere we could hide her in Kuo, Gario responded. Rainer has already agreed to my offer to spare her. That means she isn't a direct threat to Asia right now. She will actually make sure that nothing happens to her until I give her that sacred gear. She might actually be safer at the church with me watching her and Rainer not trying to hurt her than she would be being hunted by the entire group and all those nutjobs with them, and endangering others in the process. Issei said nothing and was just looking downwards. Issei, I will go with her, Asia said to him. She is right, and I don't want to put anyone else in danger. Issei was now continuing his way home by himself. A part of him could not believe that he had actually agreed to this. He was still a few kilometers away from his house when he started to hear it. A long, obviously painful howling. Not very loud at first, not more when a whisper. But as he moved it was growing louder and louder. Before Issei even fully realized it, he was walking in the direction the noise came from. He arrived in front of a house. The whisper had by now become a loud screaming. Then it suddenly ended. But Issei was sure that it came from inside. He saw then that the door had been broken open. As he stepped inside, he already knew that this was probably not a good idea. But he couldn't help the feeling that someone here needed help. When he entered the living room, he saw that he had been more than right. The walls were splattered with blood. He saw the mutilated dead body of a man bound to a chair. To his horror, Issei realized that the man was still alive, but unconscious. Issei realized now what had led him here. The pain of this man that he had sensed telepathically. Oh, look who is here, a voice greeted him. It was a man who was dressed somewhat like a priest, but looked like a maniac, with a gun in one hand and a bloodied sword in the other. This had to be one of the stray exorcists that Gariel had mentioned. It was Fried Selzen, but there was another person in the room. Kaneko, the school uniform of the small devil that she was still wearing, had been cut apart at several places and Issei could see her bra and her panties through the shredded clothes. Normally this would have excited him if it weren't for the fact that she was also bleeding from several wounds. You must be this Issei, the sacred gear user, the exorcist said. It seems my guess was right that you are somehow connected to the devils, he mused, glancing at Kaneko. And he started to laugh. I will first deal with your little devil friend here and then you will lead me to Asia Argento. Forget it. Whoever you are, Issei shouted, instantly activated his boosted gear. Issei, Kaneko whispered as she recognized him. Issei wasn't leaving his eyes off the man before him. This guy was clearly one of the exorcists. Probably the one Gariel had especially warned him about. Fried or whatever his name was. Given the state both the devil Kaneko and the man on the chair were in, it was more than rightfully. I guess I should introduce myself, the exorcist said. I am Fried Selzen. My job, and my quite personal pleasure, is it to exterminate all devils that cross my path, he declared, and everyone who associates with them. He grinned. As he said this, he readjusted the gun he held in his left hand, just a little bit, and shot the bounded man in the head. Blood splattered the floor and the wall close by and his body sank down, dead. Issei, who didn't expect a reaction like this, didn't act to stop him in time. Why did you do that? He asked. Fried just shrugged with the shoulders, as if this wasn't a serious matter at all and continued to speak as if nothing had happened. As if he had not just killed a bound-up man in cold blood. This guy had summoned a devil, as you can see here, he pointed to Kaneko with a glare, and we can't let that happen, can we? He questioned. I mean, where will we get when anyone can just summon a devil and get away with it? Maybe even making a deal with them? Hey, I mean these are devils we are talking about, shitty devils. They are like a disease, spreading everywhere, always tempting innocent people to create more of their filthy race. They need to be wiped out, ideally in the most painful way of course. He laughed. Issei was looking at the man. Whatever he was, it was clear to him that he was not completely right in the head. After their last confrontation he couldn't say that he was all too about devils either. But this was madness. You should know that I have nothing to do with the devils, he told him. Oh yes, that is exactly what a friend of the devils would say, the exorcist replied. That's how they are. Always lying, cheating and betraying. Killing, maiming, raping, torturing, just like everyone else. But never admitting it. Never being honest about it like us righteous people do, no. Damn it, Issei thought. It was clear that there was truly no reasoning with this guy. Not that he had really intended it from the beginning. But he had hoped he could at least talk him down for some time and maybe give Kaneko a chance to flee. And that, Fried stated, means all will have to die. You of course only after you have told me where the girl we are looking for is. He was looking at Issei. I won't tell you anything, you freak, Issei exclaimed. Our resistance, Fried announced. You truly are an interesting one, aren't you? With this words he pointed the gun at him, and fired nearly in the same moment. Issei moved, incredible fast. He managed to actually evade the first volley of 3 shots. He heard Diedrag's voice in his mind as the boosted gear did its work. Issei remembered his training. But at the same time he was for a short moment surrendering himself completely to his own power and acted nearly completely on autopilot, on instinct. He also remembered what Drake told him a short time ago, that his powers were growing and that he needed training for control. But right now he couldn't bother with control. He needed to survive, and for that he needed speed. Near instantly he reached Fried, after avoiding the first 3 bullets, and landed a hit on his left arm that threw off his aim. But Issei had miscalculated his own speed, moved accidentally past him, lost his footing in the process, stumbled and nearly crashed into the wall behind the mad stray exorcist. Fried was for a split second staring at him, caught between shock and amusement about what had just happened. But only for a short moment. Then he was back to his normal sadistic self. "A bit clumsy, aren't we?" he commented. "Maybe I should cut off your legs so that something like that can't happen to you again." Fried grinned maliciously, and took aim again. "I guess that was what Drake meant about controlling my own powers," Issei murmured to himself as he was still trying to regain his balance. He moved his left arm just in time to block another one of Fried's bullets with his sacred gear. Like he had learned it, he used his own energy to strengthen his own defenses, like an armor made of his own power. A master of this technique could have stopped the bullets with his bare hands. Sadly, he wasn't one. If he had better control over his other abilities, he could, as he was told, use Drake's and his own energies to form a barrier, a shield, around himself that could stop bullets before they even reached him. But he wasn't yet capable of that either. Maybe he would in the future. But in this moment he had to work with what he could do right now. To that came that Fried's weapons had themselves a certain spiritual energy behind them. Issei could sense it, feel it. They were the weapons of an exorcist after all. It wasn't exactly what one would call holy power. Not anymore at least. Not with what Fried had become. His power was now just as corrupted as his character. "I see you are able to use your sacred gear in more sense than one," the stray exorcist commented dryly. Issei was standing ready, waiting to deflect the next shot. But it didn't come. Fried decided to stop wasting his bullets and lifted his sword instead, taking a fighting stance. Issei ran forward, intending to match him. But he waited a bit longer until he conjured his own sword, hoping to catch him off guard. It was one of the earlier techniques he had learned. The sword, as he had been explained, was placed just a little bit outside of normal space and could be brought here by his command. It worked quite similar as the materialization of his sacred gear, so he could learn it quite easily. Normally such a technique, letting an object vanish and bringing it back, would have been above his current level of skill. But he improvised. With other words, he attempted to send the blade to the same place as the sacred gear. And it worked. As the weapon suddenly appeared in his hand, the stray exorcist indeed seemed surprised and had to readjust his position in the last moment and barely managed to block Issei's attack. He had obviously expected him to use his boosted gear for it like the last time. But the surprise only kept him unbalanced for a short moment and he was now back in the game. He parried the next 2 strikes without any problem. The boosted gear, Issei knew it would continue to power him up. A few more boosts and he might be able to take this Fried down by pure strength alone. But he knew his body couldn't take much more and he would most likely collapse before he reached this point. And then he would be helpless, so he deactivated it for the moment. That meant he would need to power up again from the beginning. But this was the lesser risk by far. This was it, Issei thought. This opponent wasn't underestimating him and he wasn't holding back. Whoever this nutjob was. He knew he couldn't win this fight on power and reflexes alone and he didn't have the skill yet to keep up with someone of Fried's caliber. He needed to find a middle ground between both. He needed to or he would be dead. The abandoned church. At the same time the fallen angel Gariel was just landing, along with Asia who she had brought back with her, outside of the church building. "Remember," she said to her with a low voice, "try not to act too close with me. That would only make them distrustful. As far as it comes to them I have just found you and dragged you back here. I will not be your protector when we are there, not officially at least. That will be Rainier. A bit ironic, don't you think? Since she is the one who would have killed you otherwise." She said those seemingly cynical words to her. But her voice was warm and she gave her a reassuring smile while doing it. "You see, in some sense we are not only helping you, but Rainier as well. We are helping to show her that what she truly wants cannot be achieved with death and violence. I promise I will do everything to keep you safe. But for now you just have to stay quiet and look frightened," she told her. They entered the building. Inside, in the hall they met Rainier, Middlet and a handful of the stray exorcists. The others were obviously still out somewhere in the town, looking for Asia. But she was already here. "You have found her," Rainier exclaimed, sounding, perhaps for the first time since Gariel met her, truly happy. "It seems it wasn't a bad idea to add you to our group," she stated. Asia didn't say anything, but she was looking around from one of them to the other, visible fearful. She was playing her role really good, Gariel thought. No, she corrected her own foolishness, it was more than an act. Of course Asia was truly afraid. How could she not in her situation? Rainier was kneeling down right in front of the small nun. "I see you are finally here, Asia," she said. "You remember me, right? Lord Cockabeel had introduced us shortly some time ago. I am to take care of you from now on." "Yes, Rainier-sama. I remember," Asia responded, a bit hesitated. "You don't need to be afraid. I won't let anything happen to you," the fallen angel assured her. "I admit that I want your sacred gear," she downright told her the truth. But you don't need to worry. We have a new method to take it without harming you, she said. That means you won't have to die. Middle was looking at them, visibly surprised about this statement. But she didn't say anything, at least for the moment. You have gone through so much because of it, Rainier reminded Asia. The sacred gear was the reason you were excommunicated by the church. Tell me, wouldn't you actually be happy to get rid of it? Why don't you give it to me? Rainier asked her with a soft voice. Asia began, not quite knowing what to say. It was clear that Rainier's words were getting to her. I know you liked helping people, but I promise you I will put it to good use when I have it. And you can live a normal life. Don't you want that? Yes, Asia now answered firmly. I don't want to be alone. I want to live friends. You see, I will take the twilight healing from you and we will both be happy, Rainier told her. She had a friendly smile on her face. It nearly seemed genuine. And who knew, maybe it was. Who said that she didn't actually meant what she said and expected Asia to be happy. Now that it was no longer necessary to kill her. Asia, tell me, I have heard that you have met Issei, Rainier said to her. How is he? Has he said anything? Do you know what he is doing right now? She asked her. Yes, she answered slowly. He found me when I was walking through the town. We talked. He had mentioned you as well, she said, remembering the few times Issei had mentioned the fallen angel. Of course he had. Me and him, we are quite close to each other. You should know, I am his girlfriend, she told her. The smile on her face, if at all, turned even brighter than before. What? This clearly surprised Asia. She could barely keep her voice down. Sure, he had mentioned Rainier, but not like that. She clearly didn't know what to make of this information. Why did she feel so uneasy about this? Tell me, how is he? Rainier asked her. We didn't get to spend much time together in the last days, since I have many important things here to take care of. So tell me, what is he doing right now? Has he told you anything? Asia didn't see the grin on the fallen angel Midalt's face as she heard her saying this. But Gariel did. He said he wants to protect me. We have become friends. He said he cares about me. He said he will keep me safe at every price, Asia stated. Really? Rainier replied. The snarling tone in her voice was barely heard, but it was noticeable for someone who paid attention. Well, if you are a friend of my boyfriend, then that means we should be friends as well, right Asia? The coldness and anger was barely to hear now, but it was still there. Yes, Rainier-sama, thank you, she said happily. She didn't think that the fallen angel truly meant it, but she knew she would be happy to make another friend. Come, I will show you your room, Rainier told her and gestured for the nun to follow her. As they were leaving, the other two fallen were left alone. Midalt saw no reason to hold herself back. That was just hilarious, don't you think? I knew Rainier was a great liar, but this was just great. She chuckled. What makes you call her a liar? Gariel asked with an obviously played curiosity. If you look closer you will see that nothing she had just told her was actually untrue. Just out of context, she thought. You are kidding, right? She just told Asia that she is in love with that Hyoudou guy. Really? She just told her that she is his girlfriend and that she would really like to know what he is doing right now. This is quite true, isn't it? Midalt, who finally got it, was now laughing freely. Oh yes, right. It was completely true, she said, intentionally exaggerating with a smirk, thinking that she saw the irony. You see, the greatest liar is the one who tells you the truth right in your face, Gariel remarked. She let a little bit of her real amusement of the true irony of her statement flowing in as she grinned. The small fallen angel didn't realize that she was the one being fooled. She and the others. It was nice talking to you, Midalt, she stated. Yeah, see you around, the childlike fallen replied cheerfully as Gariel too left the room. Issei and Friedselsen were still crossing swords. After being taken by surprise for a few moments, the stray exorcist was now attacking on his own. Like he had learned, Issei was channeling part of his energy into his weapon. This was, to be honest, probably the only reason he had not been disarmed yet. While the light-based powers of the exorcist's weapons were not very effective against him, since he was not a devil or another demonic being, there was another factor. Fried was simply better than him. His opponent was a skilled swordsman and an experienced fighter, while he was only an amateur with an impressive source of power. He had started to draw strength from the boosted gear again, but he knew his current limit his body could take and that this power boost alone would probably not be enough, and any wrong move could cost him his life against this opponent. Issei truly cursed his luck for running into this situation. He blocked another strike of the exorcist's sword by letting it hit his sacred gear, while trying to land a hit with his own blade at the same time, that Fried however dodged. He stopped another two hits, one with his sword, the other once again with the boosted gear. Diedrag commented his habit of using his sacred gear to deflect his enemy's blows. When I am able to use it in a better way I will tell you, Issei told him mentally. Until then I need to survive. Diedrag responded, it is clear that you won't beat this opponent in swordsmanship and if you just continue dodging his bullets, he will get you sooner or later. Use another kind of power he is not prepared for. Stop playing his game. Good idea, Diedrag, Issei replied. But what should he use? To be honest, he wasn't all too proficient in any of his techniques. His telepathy, he remembered. Of course, he thought. It was clearly the power he had shown the greatest talent so far. Issei tried to focus. He intended to send a telepathic attack against his opponent. Similar as he knew now he had done it against Kiba. Only that this time it wasn't a reflex but a conscious choice. The stray exorcist had already raised his weapon again for another strike. If only he had 1 second to concentrate, Issei thought. To his luck, his wish was fulfilled a moment later when Kaneko finally took her chance and jumped at the exorcist from behind. Fried, who put a great part of his concentration on his current opponent, only saw her coming in the last moment. But he did saw her. The day when he let a devil like this take him by surprise was the one he would gladly die, he told himself mockingly. He turned his blade around and instead of going against Issei, stepped her in the left shoulder. She cried out loud from the pain the light-based weapon caused her. "No, you little cunt," he hissed at her, "this is not how we are doing it. First I will deal with your pal over there and then I will have some fun with you. But see it from the positive side, at least you won't die a virgin." Issei felt even more sick as he already did before as he heard his words. Sure, he wasn't on good terms with the devils, for obvious reasons. But to do that to Kaneko, by the look of horror on her face she was thinking the same thing. He swore to himself that he would take this guy down here and now. Fried was hit by Issei's mental attack without warning. And for all his training and experience he wasn't prepared for this. As an exorcist he had been schooled to resist mental probing to some level. But what nobody had ever thought of was a telepathic assault right in the middle of a battle. All what Fried could do in this moment was holding his head and screaming in pain. Issei on the other hand saw for a short moment a few glimpses of Fried's memories. What exactly he did to the man on the chair, other of his victims, a scene of him talking to Yuma, Rainier, Asia, another fallen angel, this one looking quite different than the others he had seen, red eyes, long black hair and pale skin. The guy was looking a bit like Dracula, he thought, and heard Diedrag scoffing in the background of his own mind at that. A few other people he didn't recognize, but at the same time he was not wasting this chance. Issei was jumping at his opponent. The sacred gear was assisting him once again, in more than one way, as Fried had put it. Before the stray exorcist had time to recover and to react, he was hit by Issei's blow. It hit him with enough force to send him flying and leave a visible crack in the wall before them. Issei believed he heard, much to his satisfaction, at least a few of Fried's bones breaking. The exorcist was now lying on the ground, clearly out, but he saw that he was still breathing. Issei sat down, trying to come to breathe again. "Thank you, Issei-senpai," Kaneko said to him. Their personal disagreements seemed to be forgotten for the moment. A short time later a magic circle showed up on the ground in front of them and Rias and the rest of her peerage were appearing in the room. They all were looking in shock from Kaneko and the state she was in to Issei, the dead man on the other end of the room and the unconscious stray exorcist. None of them was looking very happy about what they were seeing. Then Kaneko began to explain what happened. A few minutes later Gariel was leaving the building. She had left Asia behind for now, in Rainier's care. Yes, it was quite the irony that the one who would have otherwise killed her was now watching over her. But right now Rainier was probably the person most interested in her safety, even if it was mostly for her own self-interest. At least until the ritual. But for that part, Gariel knew she needed a special kind of power, a power she didn't possess. She sends out a mental call, not to Issei, but to another person she had a telepathic connection with. She sends the call into the void between the realities. "Boss, I hope you can hear me. There's something I need you to help me with," she said. Gariel knew in some sense she was just as much a manipulator as many of the people her groups were standing against. She was manipulating Rainier and the others, not quite unlike Rainier had manipulated Issei, there was no denying that. She was using their ambitions for her own agenda. So far she had found out a few interesting things, but she was doing it all for a good cause. She had for example been lying to Rainier about what exactly the ritual would do as well. Yes, it would give her what she wanted, but not exactly in the way Gariel had claimed. She had been falsely claiming to work for Azazel, to be part of the Gregory, and many other things. So what, she thought, if her manipulations kept Rainier from killing an innocent person and maybe, just maybe, even helped to turn her into a better person in the process, then she gladly accepted to be one. For now, it was time to reunite with Issei and tell him about what happened. She concentrated on the telepathic marker that had been placed on him. A circle appeared under her feet and a moment later she had teleported away. As she reappeared moments later, she felt how her jaw dropped. She had expected Issei to be home by now, or maybe out at training. But not this. The scene before her could have come right out of a horror movie. She was standing inside some house. At the other side of the room was the mutilated body of a man, bound to a chair, who had been killed by an headshot. Issei was standing there, breathing heavily and being visible beaten up. Another body was lying on the ground before her. She recognized him as Fried Selzen, unconscious by what she could say. The entire room was stained with blood. The furniture had been broken. What in the world had happened here? What made it even worse was that some of the devils from Kyo Academy were present. In fact, the entire Gremory peerage was here. One of them, a white-haired girl, seemed to be injured and her clothes had been partly cut off. Most likely the work of Selzen. They all were standing in opposite to Issei and had their eyes on him. But now with her arrival, their attention turned to her. It seemed the cat was probably out of the bag now when it came to their connection. The devils were looking at her with wariness and in most cases open hostility. No wonder, they could sense what she was after all. "Gariel," he called out as he saw her. "Great, so much for the last bit of chance at pretending that they had nothing to do with each other," she thought sarcastically. "Issei, I think we should plan in another lesson about the entire concept of keeping your mouth shut, especially in front of devils," she remarked. "So you have joined the fallen angels, Issei," Rias Gremory stated. I hadn't thought you would after the last one tried to kill you. She is not one of that fallen angels, Issei replied. Not that this devil had any right to talk here, he thought. She belongs to the same group like me. Is that so? She responded distrustful. He is telling the truth. I am not a member of the Gremory. In fact, I have infiltrated the group residing in the old church building for our own reasons, Gariel told them. Really? Rias asked. Her curiosity was now sparked. And for what purpose? That is our business and not yours, devil, she replied sharply. Rias frowned, but held herself back from saying anything. If the group Issei had joined were truly not the Gremory, she at least wanted to avoid a fight with them until she knew more. Gariel, Issei said to her, I was able to take a short look into this guy's head. It was only a few glimpses, but I think he might know something important. Her gaze turned to Fried. Yes, having Selzen captured might turn out more than useful. But as things looked, they would very likely have to leave his capture to the devils. Not only did they have a very good argument, since he had as it looked nearly killed a member of their peerage. She and Issei also had not the time or a place to actually hold Selzen and guard him. Especially not with her still with the fallen angel group and Asia. But the devils had both. As an angel, fallen angel, and a member of the Guardians, she didn't trust a devil as far as. No, scratch that. She had found out that she could throw a devil quite far from personal experience. Well, the point was she didn't trust them. But this opportunity was too good to pass up. Rias Gremory, she finally said, I want to offer you a deal. Rainier was standing by herself somewhere in the area surrounding the church building. She just wanted some time away from the others. Things were going well again. Asia Argento was now here, and it was now she would probably not even be trying to leave. But there was still the question of Issei, or whoever it was, who was still out there. It was not so important, she thought, as long as he didn't interfere. Asia was the sacred gear user who truly mattered, she told herself. But her time alone was cut short in this moment. Yuma-chan, she heard a well-known voice. Issei. But as Rainier was looking around, she didn't see anybody. Where are you? She called out. Yuma-chan, she heard the voice again. This time it was a bit louder and sounded closer by. As she turned around this time, she actually saw Issei Hyoudou standing a few meters before her. So it is really you, she stated. Yes, of course it is me. I am so happy to see you again, he said with obvious sarcasm. Not that she could truly hold it against him. Yuma-chan, or should I rather call you Rainier-chan? It seems you have found out a few things, she remarked. I know a lot, he responded. Issei, tell me, how exactly are you still alive? You are clearly not a devil, just as I have been told, Rainier questioned. There are other people beside them who can bring you back, he answered. Others? It wasn't heaven, was it? No. Then another group. Interesting. Lord Azazel will be very interested in this information. Is that all you care about? He asked her. Anger was now shining through his words. Oh, what's with that tone? Can it be that you are still a bit raw about this whole killing you thing? She asked him mockingly. You know, I really cared about you. I had even begun to love you. But what did you do? Rainier said nothing for a few moments before she answered. I took no pleasure in killing you. Like I told you, it was all because of your sacred gear. But I will not hesitate to do it again if you disturb my plans for Asia. In this moment she lunged at him. But she just passed through his body as if it wasn't even there. And it wasn't. Some sort of projection, she realized. Interesting. Issei had to suppress a grin. After the last confrontation with the devils, he, Gariel, and Diedrag had gone through another few rounds of training. Telepathic projections were a part of it, and this was a good opportunity to test it out. Not to mention to get back a little bit at Yuma. He reappeared behind her and was laying his arms around her. You know, the sad thing is, I can't really fondle your boobs in this form, he told her. Rainier got a deep blush on her face as she noticed where exactly his hands were, and stepped a meter away from him. You have not changed at all, she said. I hope not, he replied grinning. And just so you know, I don't intend to interfere in your plans for Asia as long as I am sure that no harm will come to her. What's with you and her anyway? Are you already trying to replace me? She taunted him. No, Asia is my friend and I want to protect her. From people like you, he replied. Just tell me one thing, he said. Why did you kill me? He asked. The plain truth. Orders. Lord Azazel told me to watch over you. But he also warned me that he feared your sacred gear could go berserk and endanger everything around you if it got out of control. Then some of my superiors told me that our leaders decided it would be better to get rid of you. And I could hardly deal with that and with Asia at the same time. So I stopped the problem before it even started. And in some sense protected everyone else, she added as if it was an afterthought. Issei was startled for a moment about this simple explanation. But he was also very uncomfortably reminded of Diedrag's prediction what would happen if his powers got out of control. Stop the problem. He responded. You murdered me. You were planning to kill Asia. That is reason enough for you to kill someone. This is just what happens to sacred gear users. If you don't get used, or killed, by one side, then by the other, she replied coldly. Believe me, I have seen people die for far less reason. We don't live in a very nice world. For a short moment Issei wasn't even sure how he should answer to that. But his anger finally caused him to continue talking. This happens to sacred gear users, you say. Well, it seems fallen angels are not so different, right? I have found out a lot about your kind in the last few days. Let's see. Born into a conflict, devils and normal angels are your enemies? No say in that. You all are part of an organization called the Gregory. You all become part of the war if you want to or not. People around the world hate you just for what you are. Even the ones who never did anything to fall and were just born this way. It seems the sacred gear users are not the only ones who got a crappy deal, right? Tell me, do you really believe that the other fallen angels will suddenly start to love and adore you just because you have taken a sacred gear from a nun? He asked her. Look at you, the one guy who actually told you that he loved you was the one you stabbed to death. Maybe I should actually feel sorry for you. Shut up. Rainer now yelled at him angrily. Why do you think this sacred gear will give you this if you didn't do it for Asia? He wanted to know. This is different for a fallen angel, she replied. Really? He asked. Well, we will see. I will leave it to you. Make sure Asia will not be harmed and I won't interfere. With these words he vanished. Rainer was left, still staring at the spot where Issei's thought projection had just been. The plan will work out, she was telling herself. He knew nothing about the three factions except what he might have learned during the last days. Issei, he was alive, she thought. A few miles away stood Issei's true body, somewhere at a sidewalk in the town. He had just ended the projection and his consciousness had returned. This short confrontation was one of the hardest things he had ever done, he admitted to himself. And that not only because it was difficult to keep up the projection. So Gariel, I hope your plan works out, he said quietly. Abandoned church, the next day. The ritual had started. Asia's body was bound to a cross in one of the lower-leveled rooms of the building, hanging in front of the two fallen angels. But otherwise she was okay. She was still awake. During the entire process, before this had started, Gariel had made sure that the way she was hung up didn't cause her any unnecessary pain. Despite that, however, the fear on her face was clearly to see. Gariel had assured her that nothing would happen to her. Still, the entire ritual in itself was frightening. She was truly sorry that she had to put Asia through this. But on the other side, the nun had volunteered to do this. Gariel was performing the improved ritual, while Rainer was standing next to her, waiting to receive the twilight healing. What she didn't know was that all that was mostly facade. Hanging Asia up on a cross, the long preparation, the strict ceremonial procedure, all this was unnecessary. This made Gariel only feel even worse that she was putting Asia through this. But it couldn't be helped. Rainer, and especially everyone else, needed to think that this was only a modified version of the original ritual. In truth, however, Gariel was using a completely different technique. A power that she normally didn't have on her own. She silently thanked Darian for transferring it to her temporarily for this one task. Near its essence, she thought without words as she reached out her hand to Asia's chest. Her mind and her powers concentrating on her life energy and on that was hidden inside it, the sacred gear. Asia cried out, and a second later sank down motionlessly. Just as she had told her to do it earlier, Gariel thought. 1 moment later she focused her powers once again and redirected them. And the power was gathering in her right hand until it was taking form. The sacred gear, the twilight healing and the physical manifestation of 2 bright glowing rings. Then she handed it to Rainer, who was eagerly taking it with a mixture of glee, greed and pure happiness and placed it inside her own chest. The entire body of the fallen angel began to glow in a green-colored light. Yes, yes, it is mine. Finally, I have what I have longed for so long, Rainer exclaimed. Gariel took a side glance at her. She found her fixation of this sacred gear fascinating, she admitted, and on some level disturbing. One thing was clear, it was more than just greed or hunger for power that drove her to this. Then she looked at Asia. She was all right, but she looked tired and her clothes were quite disheveled, in more sense than one. For the ritual she had only been wearing a light nightdress that had seriously slipped out of place. Her left boob was nearly completely hanging out. Issei would have loved to be here in this moment, she thought naughtily. But she pushed the image away right afterwards. She still had some important things to take care of. As I promised you, you have it and Asia is still alive, she addressed Rainer. Now about the rest of our agreement. Don't worry, there is only one last thing I need Asia to do for me. I am keeping my word. Then she can go wherever she wants to and start a new life if she wants. And we will leave everyone else to believe that she died here. Despite your efforts, Rainer told her. Then nobody will ever go after her again. Rainer-sama. Thank you, Asia said to her weakly. The fallen angel grimaced a bit at the unexpected words of the nun. Why in the world would she say something like this? She and the other fallen had just put her through this painful procedure and she knew that she had originally planned to take her life. So why? When Asia has recovered enough, tell her to come to me, she said to Gariel. We will be making a little trip. And then, when we return, she will be free. Somewhere in Italy. Cardinal Issei was sitting behind the desk of the main office of a secret installation of the Catholic Church that he was visiting and waiting for the 2 people he was here to talk to. Less than a minute later he heard a knock on the door. Please come in, he said in Italian. The 2 people who walked in were 2 very young women, not more than schoolgirls actually. But he knew perfectly well that both of them were trained exorcists. And beside that, both of them were holy sword wielders. Your Eminence, the first one greeted him, you wanted to talk to us. She was 16, maybe 17 years old and had light brown, nearly orange-colored hair that she was wearing in twin tails. Her partner was a bit taller than her and had short bluish hair. Yes, Irina Hyoudou and Zenobia Quarta, I am here to inform you that the church has decided to interrupt your current mission, he told them. What? Zenobia said. A small break of discipline, maybe. But he had already been informed that this girl had somewhat of an impulsive strike. An important matter has come up, one that could by our knowledge also help with the task you are currently working on, he stated. We have been informed that Friedselsen has been captured. At the mention of the infamous stray exorcist, both of the girls knew this was truly important. And the ones who are holding him have offered to hand him over to us, Cardinal Issei informed them. I want both of you to travel to Japan and retrieve him. Your Eminence, it may be Friedselsen, but by what you said he was already overpowered and detained. May I ask why 2 holy sword users are necessary for this task, especially since we were already on another important mission, and why you are coming in person to tell us? Zenobia asked him. The place where Selzen was captured is in Devil's territory, the Cardinal answered. To that comes by our information the devils of this area are involved in this. Gregory headquarters, a few hours after the ritual. Rainer had returned. She was in this moment standing in front of a group of a dozen individuals who were sitting at a long table before her. They were the leaders of the Gregory, the fallen angel state and organization. Asia was standing beside her, proving to everyone that she was still alive, while Rainer demonstrated to all of them that she now possessed the power of the twilight healing, by cutting her wrist and healing it right afterwards. The reaction of her leaders was not quite what she had expected. Cockabeel was sitting there, watching silently and looking at her with approval. This surprised her, since he was the one who had brought up the idea of taking Asia's sacred gear in the first place, and she had basically screwed him over. If she had expected one of them to be against her, it was him. Barakwil, on the other hand, seemed barely to hold back his hostility. It was clear that he didn't approve of her latest actions in the slightest. Shemhazai said nothing. She didn't know what he was thinking. Penemu seemed to merely looking at her with curiosity. She had expected her return to either be praised and rewarded or to be court-martialed for acting out of orders. She had been more than ready to face either of them if she was honest. But this mild reaction, this was much worse. They were not impressed, not in the way she had wanted them to. Curiosity, interest, yes, but mostly about the circumstances how she had gotten the twilight healing, not the fact that she had it in the first place. Azazel was just sitting there in silence, looking at her with a calm expression. Only that, the one of them whose attention she had wanted to win most. Issei's words were coming back to her. Do you really believe that the other fallen angels will suddenly start to love and adore you, just because you have taken a sacred gear from a nun? Hyoudou, the Hyoudou home. Issei's parents were having an unexpected visitor. His mother opened after she had heard it ringing at the door. Yes, she asked. To her surprise, she saw that it was a young girl who was standing outside. Hello Mrs. Hyoudou, I am going to the same class as Issei. My name is Murayama. I wanted to ask if he is here. The girl asked her. For a split second, Issei's mother was staring at her with an open mouth. The Hyoudous were for the most part a quite normal family. One of the few exceptions was that their son was a hopeless pervert, what had made him into an outsider at school. If there was one thing she would have never expected, then it was a girl standing at their door, asking for him. Who is it, darling? Issei's father asked her from the living room. Someone who is asking for Issei, she answered. Is it those boys Matsuda and Madohama? He questioned. They were normally the only ones from his class who usually visited him. No, it's a girl, she replied. What? He was similar surprised as his wife. I am sorry, but Issei is not here in the moment, she told Murayama. Oh, when will he return? I'm not completely sure, she admitted. To be honest, he had not been at home much lately. I see, Murayama responded. Thank you. The truth was, ever since Issei had been suddenly invited by Rias Gremory a few days ago, she had been wondering. During their discussion then, the usually happy-go-lucky pervert she knew had suddenly seemed deeply serious and was even calling them out for the way they acted. She admitted that left an impression on her. As she started to actually pay some attention to him, she realized that something actually seemed to be going on with him. The way he was looking and acting was simply different from before. All of that made her somewhat curious. And, pervert or not, Hyoudou was a fellow student, so it couldn't be wrong to be worried. When she asked Matsuda and Madohama, who were of course more interested in staring at her breasts than answering questions, she found out that he, despite being their best friend, spent very little time with them during these last few days. Okay, she admitted she had followed him once or twice after school. Then she had seen him meeting with a woman she had never seen before a few times, and every time he and the woman vanished a short time later. All that seemed even more strange to her. Shall I tell him that you were here when he returns? Issei's mother asked. This isn't necessary. I will just talk to him another time, she answered. If someone had told her a few days ago that she would be following around, not to say stalking, a member of the perverted trio, she wouldn't have believed it. But she couldn't help herself, something was happening with Hyoudou, and she felt that she just had to know what it was. If someone had told Issei 1 week ago that he would be walking through the corridors of a seemingly abandoned factory building somewhere at the outskirts of the city, together with Rias Gremory of all people, he would have thought this person was lying. If someone had told him that Rias Gremory and the members of her club were devils and that he and them were together would capture and interrogate an insane priest and serial killer, he would have thought that person was completely out of his mind. Well, in this moment he was walking through said building, together with Rias Gremory and Akino Hanjima, as they had told him the place was officially abandoned. But in truth the place belonged to the Gremory family, as a storage or in this case a prison for things that were too dangerous to be kept at the school, like Friedselsen. They were here to begin the interrogation of the very clearly insane exorcist. Here it is, Rias said to him as she was leading him to a door. He had already seen a room that was filled with various items that were probably connected to devil culture. This one, on the other hand, was outfitted like a prison cell, where the stray exorcist was being that wasn't even all of it. As hard as it was to top that level of craziness. Beside all that, he was also having a conversation with a dragon. And the topic of their current talk was not exactly usual either. Dracula, I know there are many strange things out there. But really, Drag? Dracula? Issei questioned. Yes, Dracula. Or Prince Vlad III of Wallachia if you prefer his official title, Drag replied. It was clearly him. The man you have seen in the Stray Exorcist's memories, however, was, when I remember right, Cockabeel, one of the leaders of the fallen angels. The same one that Gariel had mentioned is somehow involved with Rainer's group, Issei commented. Yes, he and Drag had been talking in a bit more detail about the vision he had experienced, that showed him a battle that had happened in some alternate reality. What had astonished Issei the most was who exactly one of the people he had seen fighting was. He remembered the man in the red trench coat, with the glowing red eyes, and the long canines. According to Drag, who was connected to his mind and has so seen the vision as well, this guy was nobody else then. You're telling me that Dracula is a member of the Guardians? You are joking, aren't you? He asked. Even if he exists, how would he even be on their side? The dragon assured him. One version of him at least. But he was obviously not the one from our world. In his lifetime as a human, he had been one of the most feared rulers and warlords of his race. In secret, however, he was dealing with far greater powers than that. And with his mortal death he became something different, a so-called Nosferatu, a king of the undead, a vampire of the highest order. But the one from your vision, he was different. Far above even that. This one had somehow evolved into a being whose power even surpasses mine. You actually sound impressed. I am. For a being who started out as human to actually surpass me, not only the power of one of my hosts, but me myself. That is quite impressive. After all what I have seen, why does that even surprise me? Issei stated. Yes, his life had obviously turned crazy. So he is a member of the Guardians. And that means I am now part of the same group as him. The thought obviously unsettled him. Actually, by what we have seen, he seemed to be one of the higher-ranked members of the organization, maybe even one of their leaders. That means if you decide to stay, he will be one of your superiors, Drake told him. Great, just what I always wanted. The king of the vampires is my boss, he thought. Issei remembered the scenes he had seen of him in his vision. Aside from Darian and his mysterious opponent, the man in the red trench coat had been the most impressive and, plainly said, most frightening of the warriors he had seen. The power of all three of them was far, far beyond anything he would have thought possible. But ironically, it was not only their supernatural powers. He remembered the details of the fight. If he had thought the two sword fighters he had seen at the beginning of the battle, the skill and speed that Darian, the guy he had been fighting against, and this Dracula had shown with the blade when they had temporarily used short-range weapons, made them look like amateurs. One thought, however, had crossed his mind. Why would beings like this, whose power surpassed even gods, be this good with simple weapons like swords? Drake reminded him. But he remembered how absurdly powerful all three of them were. Would he himself one day also be a being like that? He asked himself. Or would he turn into a killing machine and destroy anyone around him, like Drake and Rainer had suggested? Rainer, even thinking about her had started to hurt. But if this plan worked out, he might have to do much more than thinking about her. Don't worry, partner. I am sure together we will get this under control. The being who had resurrected you seems quite competent, and if he and the others were really born as humans, they are living proof that it is really possible to control that kind of power. Thank you, Drake. Well, in Dracula's case, his skill should not really be a surprise. He was a knight of the Order of the Dragon after all, he stated with obviously played pride. Drake, I didn't know you had a sense of humor, Issei replied. But honestly, you could still work on it. Back in the real world. We are here, Rias said to him. They had arrived in front of the door and were meeting with Kiba, who was currently standing guard. Issei admitted he wasn't exactly feeling well, being here with the devils who had tried to forcefully recruit him just a few days ago. He didn't really trust them. But Gariel had offered them a deal, and Rias had, as soon as she heard the offer, very quickly agreed. So far she and her entire peerage had been completely cooperative. No tricks, no manipulations. What Gariel had promised was obviously quite important to her. Has he said anything yet? Rias asked Kiba. Only if you mean throwing a lot of insults at us, then yes, but you, Kiba replied stoically. I see, she answered. They entered the small room, Akino right behind them and Kiba still standing at the door. Freed was shackled and tied to a chair that was chained to the walls. Ironically, it was a quite similar position as his latest victim. You shit-headed devils think you are so great. He growled at them. Had it not been for your pal over there, he was looking at Issei, then I would have screwed your little girl until she could no longer stand and then cut off her fucking head. Rias slapped him across the face as she heard what he just said. Let me make one thing clear. We have all seen what you have done to Kaneko, and you won't get away with this. If I had my way, you would be already rotting away, right next to the human you have killed, but are temporarily. Allies think you might know something important. So tell me, what you know about the fallen angel group in this town. she asked him angrily. What I know is the position you will be in when I get out of here. Bend over and screaming your lungs out with something hard deep inside your ass, just like so many other whores like you. Rias was backhanding him again and then even gave him a punch right in the face. She had gotten really angry now. She couldn't help herself, but this guy just set her off. Tell me, beating a chained-up man, do you get off on this? Is it the thing for you devils? Fried asked her. Well, to be honest, it is my thing, Aquino admitted, grinning brightly. She had been following their exchange with great interest and a more than a bit wicked smile on her face. She actually seemed to be a bit aroused, Issei thought. He wasn't quite sure about what to think about this side of Aquino-senpai. He admitted it made him somewhat uncomfortable. Normally I would be the one doing the part of the interrogation which Butchu right now so eagerly performs. She grinned. But to be honest, you are not really my type, she told him. You are too vulgar, so I will leave it to her. This time, she stated. Fried only laughed at this. Oh, I see. A lady is a perverted sadist. But she still has her standards. It is kind of amusing, don't you think? He commented. Let me deal with him, Issei said to them. Like the last time he reached out with his newly developed mental powers to the stray exorcist's mind. This time, however, he avoided to actually look into Fried's deranged mind. He just concentrated on forcing information out of it. The mental barriers of the stray exorcist were holding him back for a few moments. But then he focused his powers even more. As some kind of signal, a trigger for the full extent of his telepathic powers. It was something he just came up with. He snapped with his fingers. And Fried began to talk. And with every word he heard, Issei became more angry. Gregory headquarters. At the same time, Rainier was still facing her leaders. Now Rainier, tell me, what exactly do you think we should do with you? Azazel asked her. For a short moment he actually sounded a bit amused and a grin flashed across his face. But then he was dead serious again. On one side you have secured a very valuable sacred gear for our race, and you have extracted it in keeping the original owner alive. On the other you have acted without authorization, you killed a non-involved sacred gear user and you gave false information to a few of your superiors. Maybe we should reward you first and then bring you before a court-martial. What do you say? Court-martial? How can you even consider punishing her, Azazel-sama? She is a hero of our race after all, Cockabeel addressed him. A hero? Barakwil asked incredulous. She had murdered a 16-year-old human teenager and she had at least been planning to kill this girl too, he said, looking at Asia. A teenage boy that even Lord Azazel admitted could have become a threat, Cockabeel responded, and an excommunicated nun who had, according to the reports, at least considered to betray us in defect. She would be gone and her sacred gear with her. He sends a glare to poor Asia, who was already intimidated from being here and was now actually fighting the urge to hide behind Rainier of all people. How many other lives have we already sacrificed without a second thought? Cockabeel asked them the question those answer they all already knew. Too many. Now Barakwil, you know as good as me that if we locked up everyone who killed someone for one weird reason or the other, half of the underworld would be imprisoned. Azazel commented, and the other half would be standing guard. I know that, but that doesn't mean I like it, he replied. They all knew that the fallen angels didn't have much choice when it came to their methods or to their allies. That was the only reason why people like Fried Selzen were even tolerated work for their organization. And that was also the reason that the chances of Rainier and her group actually getting a serious punishment for killing an outsider and acting without orders were pretty low. Not if people like Selzen were doing things like that and worse every week, under their protection, and were getting away with it because they were needed. No, Rainier's latest actions were only a symptom of a far greater problem. Something that needed to be changed if there should ever be a chance for true peace. How can their lower ranks be expected to show discipline and follow their orders or even to respect the lives of other races, when their leadership is letting mass murderers into their ranks and in some cases allows them to run amok? And how would this lower ranks react if one of them would get punished for something human stray exorcists get away with all the time in their organization? Punishing Rainier now would only make them all look like hypocrites, especially with Cockabeel obviously trying to stir up trouble. You don't like it, Barakwil? Or is it more about the fact that that boy was human? Cockabeel suggested. You have a weakness for humans, haven't you? You were even married to one and had a daughter with her. What do you think my family has to do with this? Barakwil asked him angrily. Just that you had this family until someone who hated our kind decided to kill them. So the loss of human children is probably something of a wound point for you, right? But on the second though, your daughter is still alive, isn't she? Oh right, she had just abandoned you and joined the devils. She is right now with our enemies and is helping them to kill our people. How dare you? Barakwil growled. What? Telling you the truth. Your daughter is a traitor, and you are doing nothing about it, like trying to bring her back. Instead you are sitting here, trying to take the moral high ground and place judgment on people who actually care about our race. Of course if she were here, you wouldn't ask to have her punished, would you? Because you care more about humans and their offspring than your own kind. Barakwil jumped up from his seat. He looked as if he was ready to throw a light spear at his comrade. You bastard, he hissed. But Cockabeel was only sitting there, grinning. That is enough, Cockabeel, Shemazai cut in. This is not a question of the species. Well, of course you would be saying this, given who your wife is, Cockabeel retorted, reminding them all that their vice-governor had married a devil. But at least you are leaving her influence on you in the bedroom where it belongs. Your attitude is not helping at all, Cockabeel, Penemu, who was sitting at the right end of the table, pointed out. Rainier had meanwhile been watching with shock and, to be honest, even slight amusement how her esteemed leaders were verbally ripping themselves apart. What was frustrating, however, was that Cockabeel was the only one who actually seemed to back her up. For a short moment she asked herself why she was even trying so hard to impress these people. Actually, Issei, I mean the boy Rainier-sama has killed, is alive again, someone spoke up a bit timidly. They realized that it was Asia Argento. Is he? Hey? Azazel questioned. Somehow there was a playful undertone in his voice. But it was something that only the people who knew him would realize. Yes, the fact that the boy had been returned to life was about the best part about this entire mess. And not by the devils, what would have made everything probably only more complicated in the long run. Especially now that he knew who this boy was. Rainier, he thought. Why did it had to be her of all of them who ended up pulling something like this? Oh yes, he knew exactly why. This desperate desire to prove herself to him. Her nearly obsessive need to gain his and the other leaders' attention. He was willing to bet every last one of his wings that it was Cockabeel who had placed this idea with the twilight healing into her head in the first place. But right now there was little he could do about it. Azazel knew a part of it was his own fault. He had seen the problem with her coming months ago. He could have confronted her and talked with her about it. But he had other things on his mind, and she was after all only one of many group leaders under his command. Instead he had ignored it and sent her to the mission in Kuo. Whatever you could say, telling a young woman with a borderline obsession to please him that the sacred gear user she was meant to observe was a potential threat was clearly not one of his smartest decisions. It looks like this discussion is leading us nowhere, Azazel announced. Fighting each other will help none of us, he stated, looking at Cockabeel. If you allow me, I would like to make a suggestion. If you all agree with it, I want to take care of this matter by myself. To be precise, there is a special assignment that needs to be done, and Rainier here is the perfect candidate for it. This statement surprised all of them, especially Rainier herself. For a split second it crossed her mind that Azazel had maybe something else in mind to let her make up for acting outside of his orders. She wouldn't say no, she knew. Not if it was him. But what was said a moment later convinced her that this was clearly not the case. Special assignment. How come I didn't know anything about this? Penemu asked him. By her expression it was good possible that she had the same thought as Rainier did. Given that lust was a common sin under the fallen angels and Azazel's own reputation, it wouldn't even be that far off. But he proved both of them wrong instantly. It is a mission that is top secret even under the higher ranks, he answered. And I myself have only found out about this a short time ago. Besides that, for it will be necessary to remove her from the official ranks for some time. There will be neither an official reward or punishment. She will just disappear for some time. I think that would be the best for everyone involved right now. When she finished this mission successfully, then she will have fulfilled a great service to all of us. Her failings will be forgotten and she will be rewarded for all her achievements for our cause. That means, of course, if you agree to this terms, Rainier, he said. Lord Azazel, I don't know what to say. Of course I agree, she replied. Good, meet me in my office after this meeting. I will discuss the details with you, he told her. All of them were looking at him in surprise, but none of them were against it. This would get the problem out of their hands and served, by what Azazel said, even a long-time purpose. And about you, Asia Argento, the leader of the fallen angels addressed her, as I have heard you are intending to leave our faction. Why, yes, I do, she answered nervously. I have found people who are willing to take care of me. She interrupted herself for a short moment. Rainier-sama now possesses the twilight healing, and thanks to her most other people now think I am dead, so. I see, Azazel replied. Does any one of you protest her decision to leave us? He asked. Asia was looking at the fallen angels in the room. To them she was now only a human girl, without any special powers, fighting skills or other uses. There was no longer a reason to hold her. None of them said anything. Good, Asia, then you are free to go and live wherever you want to, he told her. Thank you, Lord Azazel, she said. Cockabeel had been following the events without another word. The plan had clearly not worked out, otherwise none of these two would even be here. The only question was why. There was a reason he had made a pact with that disgusting devil in the first place, as much as he hated the thought. It was about time he contacted with his ally. Hyoudou Academy. Rias, we need to talk, she was greeted, a short time after she and Akino had returned to their club room, by two young women in student uniforms. Both of them had dark hair, the first one in a short bob cut, and both were wearing glasses. For the human students, these two were Sona Shitori, the president of the student council, and her vice president Tsubaki Shinra. Behind that, however, they were Sona Citri, the king of the other devil peerage that was controlling this area, and her queen. Yes, Sona, Rias asked her. What do you want to talk about? First of it is about this dangerous stray exorcist who you are holding prisoner, Tsubaki stated in Sona's place. I assure you that he is completely secured and he won't stay for long anyway, Rias said, looking at both of them. Besides that, the place where he is held belongs to the Gremory family alone. So it is my responsibility. I am aware of that, Sona answered. But it is not only this. There is also this agreement you have made with a group that we have never heard of before. That makes it an ideal opportunity to find out more about them, Rias countered. Don't try to fool me, Rias. I know exactly what they have offered you, she responded. By the way, while you were absent, Grafia had been trying to contact you. Grafia, what did she want? Oh, I am not quite sure. She only told me to tell you to call back, but by what she said it seems to be connected with Razor. The thin smile on Sona's face as she said this was barely to see. But Rias did notice. She knew that her friend Sona was mocking her a little. Gregory headquarters. Rainier followed Azazel to his personal office. If she was honest, she wasn't quite sure what to expect. Maybe he was indeed secretly happy about what she did and wanted to tell her this in private. But after all what had been said, she wasn't so sure anymore. She knew she had completely overstepped her competencies. She acted behind the back of her superiors and even killed people she was not supposed to kill. But she had acted in his best interest. Or at least that was what she was telling herself. But was that truly the case? She had a moment of doubt, or were the problems her actions caused greater than the benefit? All that, however, didn't change one single fact. She had misused his trust. As they both entered the room together, the thought once again crossed her mind that maybe he considered sex as a way to work out their differences. It wasn't that uncommon under the Gregory, but for some reason the thought now seemed to make her uncomfortable. Of course it was clearly not his main intention. Then he would not have been talking about a secret mission and her leaving the official ranks. But that didn't mean that he didn't maybe consider this as well. She caught herself thinking for a moment if she wasn't technically still Issei's girlfriend. In whatever sins she had committed, she didn't want unfaithfulness to be one of them. Sure, she had killed him, but he came back, and during their last meeting, he didn't exactly seem disinterested. Less than a second later she shut down the absurd thought. She was a murderer and was worried about cheating on her boyfriend. It was not as if she had real feelings for Issei Hyoudou, and even if she had, she knew about his plans to have an entire harem. So it wasn't as if he would be faithful to her. Who was she kidding? She did have such feelings, otherwise she wouldn't have such thoughts in the first place. When she had killed him, she had been cool like ice and completely businesslike. She didn't actually resent him. To be honest, she found him funny, even a bit cute, in a completely ridiculous kind of way. But of course so far beneath her that she would have never actually considered anything. But since she had heard that he came back, and had met him again, the way he was acting now, that he had practically ordered her not to harm Asia, the little bitch, that he confessed his love for her, developing feelings for a guy that you were not only planning to kill, but who you actually did kill. Stupid Rainier, stupid, she told herself, and that enough to feel bad about the thought of a possibility that you would have jumped for a week ago. But she knew perfectly well that it wasn't really likely that Lord Azazel truly wanted that from her, at least here and now. The only one who actually confessed his love for you was the one you killed, she remembered Issei's words. But then she was brought out from her daydream by Azazel. So Rainier, you always wanted my full attention. Now you certainly have it, he said to her as he sat down. Lord Azazel, she didn't quite know what to say anymore. Say nothing. Let me see, he said to her. You think that I don't value you, that I don't appreciate you and your efforts for our cause. You think that I don't see or worth you like I should and don't pay enough attention to you. Well, it seems I have truly made a lot of mistakes. Isn't that right, Rainier? What? She nearly called out. She barely managed to keep her voice down. Please, it is clearly to see for everyone that you feel unappreciated, lonely, and neglected. It became so bad that you even felt the need to achieve this plan behind the back of me and the entire leadership. I failed to act and give you what you needed. So all what happened is obviously my fault, right? He asked her with obvious sarcasm. Oh, of course not. How can you say something like this? She stammered. Really? Is this not how you really feel, Rainier? That I have failed you? No, of course not. You dream about becoming one of my higher officers, a member of my inner circle, maybe even more than that, he suggested, leaving it open to interpretation what he meant. Yes, something inside Rainier shouted, but she didn't say anything. And when I didn't give you what you thought you deserved, you secretly blamed me for it. So you decided to do something radical to gain my attention, and since I could not be trusted, after all I was the one who had not seen your worth in the first place, you decided to do it all behind my back. Of course it was all for the best of our people, since obviously you know so much better what is best for our people than I do. Isn't that how you truly feel deep down, Rainier? How could he say something like that? She asked herself. But she remembered there were times when she actually felt like this. You know, he continued, I had always considered you one of my most loyal subordinates. By far not the strongest or experienced, of course, but one of the most loyal. Sadly, it seems I was wrong. What? How can you say that? She called out. I know inside your own mind, you did this all for my sake and the sake of our race. That is maybe the saddest part of this entire mess. But a leader cannot tolerate subordinates who are acting without orders the entire time. Otherwise he won't stay a leader for much longer. You thought having the twilight healing in the hands of a fallen would be an advantage for our race, and technically you were right. But you didn't know the whole situation. You couldn't have known. You have talent and potential, Rainier, but in many ways you are still like a child. She felt as if she had been slapped. It was like playing house with a little child. Her own words to Issei went through her head. You really left me in a difficult situation. As you saw today, Cockabeel is trying to undermine the rest of the leadership. He wants nothing more than to start a new great war that could destroy us all. And now he is using you as a tool to spread dissent. If I would reward you for your actions or do nothing about it, it would encourage others to do similar things and weaken my position. Cockabeel would without a doubt take advantage of this. If I would punish you, Cockabeel would claim that I treat our own kind worse than the stray exorcists who are working for us, who get away with such actions all the time and use it against me as well. And that is not even everything. Do you even know who the boy is that you have killed? I have just got information a short time ago which sacred gear it is that he possesses. It is the boosted gear. He is the Red Dragon Emperor. Rainier was now just sitting there frozen in shock. Red Dragon Emperor. Issei was. To our luck, however, it doesn't seem that he is aiming for revenge against you, as Azazel stated, or against the rest of us, he added. But that is the only good thing about this. So tell me, what shall I do with you? I am sorry, I didn't know. I had been told that you wanted it to happen. Yes, you did. You had been deceived. We all were. And that is your one and only excuse, he said sternly. I guess a part of it is actually my fault, he admitted. I should have made myself clear why I wanted Issei, Hyoudou observed. I should have made clear that I wanted him alive. Maybe then you wouldn't have fallen for these false orders, he commented. Listen, I have been offered an opportunity. For both of us in a way. I have recently found out about two powerful new forces that had gotten active in our areas and the one of our enemies. The first one is a dangerous terrorist organization whose trail I found some time ago and that recruits their members out of all three factions. The other one is even more mysterious. I have found out about their existence only a few days ago, but they don't seem to be hostile. In fact, they came to me and offered cooperation. Cooperation? She asked. They claim to be after this terror organization as well, and they offered to work together with us, and they have even agreed to accept members of the Gremory in their group. Rainier saw where this was going. So you want me to? Yes, I want you to join them. I want you to be my eyes and ears in this group. I want you to help them fight the terror organization that is a threat to all of us. But at the same time, I want you to find out all about them what you can. But that, Rainier stated, they have agreed to let you contact me regularly and give a status report, and they agreed to give me all information about their organization that is not considered top secret. But only under the condition that we work together. I won't sugarcoat it, Rainier. This mission is extremely dangerous. We know barely anything about this people. There is no guarantee that they are truly as benevolent as they claim, and even then you will fight against terrorists with people we barely know. You will fight with them, work with them, fight with them, but unofficially you will still be a member of the Gremory. You are also free to bring the other members of your team with you if you think it is the right decision. If you refuse, I will just restore you to your old position and give you a new post. You will not be officially punished, but you will not be rewarded either. And you will stay there and won't get any sort of promotion for the foreseeable future. Placed at the sidelines, that was the human term, Rainier thought. I see. So you are sending me off because I became dead weight to you anyway, she stated bitterly. You know the situation, Rainier. I wish it was different. Maybe in time I would give you another task to win back my trust. But as it is now, this is your chance. If you succeed, you will be promoted to the higher ranks, and as promised, your mistakes will be forgotten. Yes, and like I already said, I accept, she answered. Good, because as it seems the representative of our new allies just arrived, Azazel stated a second later. A magic circle appeared on the ground before them, and the fallen angel Rainier knew as Gariel appeared in the room. You have arrived, he greeted her. Azazel, has everything worked out? She asked him. That indeed did, he said. Asia Argento is not longer part of our faction, and Rainier here has agreed to temporarily join your group. Her group. But I thought she was working for you. Rainier questioned. You have tricked me, she realized, accusing Gariel. Well, that was maybe what she has told you, but in fact I have never met her until 2 days ago, Azazel commented. Yes, I have tricked you, just like you have tricked Issei, she reminded her. But I did it with the best intentions. After all, you now have the twilight healing, just like you wanted, and you didn't need to kill Asia for it. Rainier didn't say anything. Rainier, Azazel addressed her, one last thing. This entire plan to take Asia Argento's sacred gear, is it possible that it has originally not been your idea? That someone else had brought it up? Yes, she answered after a short hesitation. Was it Cockabeel? Yes, she replied once again. I see, Azazel stated. Just like killing Hyoudou then, he said quietly. A few minutes later the three of them, Rainier, Asia and Gariel, had teleported back to Hyoudou. For Rainier it was right the next shock as she saw who was awaiting them as the town border. Issei Hyoudou was standing there, waiting for them. You, she called out, looking from him to Gariel and back, you two are working together. She also remembered the shock as she found out what kind of sacred gear Issei possessed. Yes, does that really surprise you? Gariel asked. As it seems we are all on the same team now. She grinned. Rainier barely held back a growl as she began to realize how far she had been duped. As she looked at Issei, however, his eyes seemed to avoid her. Does that really surprise you? She asked herself. You have killed him. Asia meanwhile was running towards him. Issei, it has worked. I am free now. I can live wherever I want, she told him. That is good. He laid his arms around her. Do you still want me to live with your family? She asked. Of course. Seeing the entire scene, Rainier could once again feel the burning rage coming up inside her. A part of her actually regretted not killing Asia. There was no sense to longer deny it, she actually was jealous. A few hours later, it was at the same afternoon that Issei, Gariel, Rainier and Asia were meeting again with Rias Gremory, who had freed with them. They had teleported to a small forest area, a few miles outside of the town, where they had agreed to meet with Rias and the others. Asia was with them, but she was looking completely different from before. She had her hair dyed in a brown color and was wearing it in a ponytail, with 2 loose strands at both sides of her face, which made her only look even cuter in Issei's opinion. Her nun outfit had she switched against regular clothes, and for this day, she was wearing glasses. Gariel had also used a technique to mask the fact that she actually still possessed the Twilight healing and that Rainier's version was a copy. They had by now introduced Asia to Issei's parents. Like Issei had already planned, he told them the story how he had found her in the town and asked them if she could stay with them for a while. Given how Issei knew his parents and that they sometimes talked about how it would be to have a daughter, he knew there was a good chance that a while would turn into permanently very soon. This is Maya. He introduced Asia to the devils under her false name. None of them would know who she truly was. This was also a test how good Asia's disguise worked in extreme situations. If she needed to have a normal life in Hyoudou, she needed to be able to fool devils and maybe even exorcists, at least over a short time. You have brought him here, Issei stated towards Rias. Yes, she replied. We will meet with the agents of the church very soon and hand him over. At her sign, Kiba and Akino brought Fried closer, who was still in chains. Oh, look who we have here, the captured stray exorcist exclaimed. The shitty devils, the sacred gear boy, Rainier and another fallen angel, all together, and a little girl. He was looking at Asia a bit longer than at the other. But he wasn't saying anything. For the moment, are we all collaborating with the enemy now? He asked them and grinned. You of all people have nerve to say that, Selzen, Issei stated. Did you bring anything out of him? Gariel asked him. You can say that, he replied. So Fried, why don't you tell them exactly what you have told me? For a split second the stray exorcist was looking at him in visible rage. Now, since you have already brought me to spill the beans to you. By the way, an interesting technique, I will make sure to repay you someday, bastard, he said with open malice. Well, I guess it can't hurt to tell you all the whole story once again, right? Gremory headquarters. A meeting between the leaders of the fallen angel faction had just come to its end. Ultimately nothing had been decided, just like Cockbill had intended. Azazel, however, seemed to have his own plans for little Rainier. It didn't matter, he thought. She was no longer truly his concern. There were enough others who could take her place. He created a magic circle and transported himself to a place in a safe distance from the headquarters where he would not be overheard. Another circle appeared close to him, a smaller one meant for communication. Cockbill, I have been expecting to hear from you, a voice greeted him. I can imagine. Tell me, what has happened? Have you not attacked like it was our plan? He asked the voice. Yes, why? That is a good question, he responded. Let us say things were not exactly like they were supposed to be. For once another fallen angel had arrived that you didn't have informed me about. One more would hardly be a problem, Cockbill countered. Your forces would still outnumber them. And there was also that little Asia actually survived the ritual, the voice commented. That was not what we agreed to. She was meant to die so that I can bring her back and be her savior. This was not what we agreed to. Asia was meant to belong to me, and in exchange I would leave her sacred gear to you. That was our deal, right? But with this new fallen showing up, who said that I could still trust you? Maybe it was instead meant to be a trap for me. Coward, Cockbill thought. Of course someone like him would only act if the situation was absolutely in his favor. Listen, Deodora, he said, it is not possible to control a situation completely. This other fallen was sent by Azazel, I had no say in that. But it still could have worked out if you haven't hesitated. Now both Asia and Argento and the Twilight healing are out of our hands. Yes, it seems the plan has failed, the devil replied. It is really sad. Well, I will find her again and try anew. Then do that by yourself, Cockbill stated angrily. I have other matters to deal with. If you say so. I wish you good luck with your plans, Cockbill, he said, and ended the communication. Idiot, the fallen angel thought. Normally a fallen angel general like Cockbill and Deodora Asteroth, a high-class devil from a prestigious family, would have never come to see eye to eye with each other, if it were not for a certain organization that they were both part of, even in different arms. But that didn't mean that they trusted or liked each other. Sacred gear. The truth was that Cockbill had never any real interest in the Twilight healing. Actually, he fully expected his partner to betray him and keep both it and Asia Argento for himself. This was what a devil would do after all. No, he intended him and his servants to attack their base and very likely kill Rainier and the rest of her team. That was why he had placed the idea with the Twilight healing inside her head and gave that devil her and Asia's location and the date when the extraction ritual would take place. Then he could use this attack to stir up the Gremory leadership even more to his course of war. If Deodora had decided to keep the Twilight healing for himself, he could have even accused him of starting the entire attack just for stealing the sacred gear in the first place. Rainier and her comrades, their role had from the beginning been the one of martyrs for his cause. But as things were now, this wouldn't work out anymore. But maybe he could still do something with the rest of her team, outside of Hyoudou. So you see, it had all been planned from the very beginning. Deodora, he had actually injured himself just to get little Asia kicked out of the church. He has this thing for nuns, you know. He just loves turning them into his playthings. You see him and Cockabeel, they are both in the same organization. So they made a deal. My role? Well, I was sent here to heat up things a little, to make sure everything goes smoothly. You know, killing people, attacking a few devils. Good old Cockabeel wants nothing more than to start a war, you know. And you, Rainier, and your little team, I fear you were only set up to be killed off from the start. He laughed. He just wanted you to die for him the entire time, he announced. Rainier was just standing there, staring at him like frozen. Then she was looking at Issei and back. She looked down and seemed to whisper something quietly. Most of them didn't understand it. But Issei, who had moved closer to her, did. Will you die for me? He heard the words she had repeated. Rainier couldn't take it anymore. After the words she had gotten from Azazel, after finding out about Issei's sacred gear, this was just too much. She couldn't say anything and just turned around and walked away quickly. She could barely keep herself from running, but she didn't want to humiliate herself even more in front of them. What's with her? Fried asked mockingly as he saw her leave. I guess some people can't take the truth, he stated. Oh, and little Asia, her rescuer would have quickly turned her into a sex toy. Deodora really knows how to break them in. Even I am impressed here. He would for sure have much fun with her. She was such a cute little thing. Who knows, if I had asked nicely, maybe he would let me have a turn too. But too bad that won't happen now because she is dead, right? Right? He asked in Issei's direction. As he said this, Asia walked forward until she was standing right in front of him, and without saying a word, kneeled him right in the crotch. Og, Fried called out in pain. You little bitch, he howled. I will get you for this. I know about you. Rias and the other devils were only smiling. Issei, however, was looking with an open mouth at Asia as he saw what she had just done. He could not believe it. He was staring at her for a few seconds before he turned around and left. A part of him truly questioned why he was doing this. Why was he going after Rainier? He found her about a minute later. She was leaning with her back against a tree, and it looked as if she had tears in her eyes. Issei, she said as she saw him, I am sorry. I am so sorry. I am such a bitch. He could hardly disagree here, he thought. But he didn't say anything. Despite what she did to him, after hearing Fried's story twice now, he could not help to feel somewhat sorry for her. He saw that she was indeed crying. Issei, forgive me, please, she said between sobs. He wanted to say something, but he didn't bring a word out. He saw that his hands were shaking. She realized it as well. I see. I must have really hurt you. Like hell you did, he replied with a sudden burst of anger. I am sorry. Will you at least allow me to make it up to you? Will you give me a chance? I know now how you must feel. He nodded. Thank you, she said. We have to return to the others. Are you coming? He asked in a grim tone and wanted to turn around. Issei, could you not tell anybody that you have seen me like this? She pleaded. Of course, he answered. Thank you. The place where they were meeting with the church agents was once again a few miles further away from the town. They had arrived at the agreed place and were waiting. After around 10 minutes they saw two figures appearing and coming closer. Both of them were wearing blue robes and had hood over their heads, and they could feel holy energy radiating from them. Exorcists. As they had arrived and were standing only a few meters away, they could see that both of them were young girls. Issei, one of the two figures, called out to everyone's surprise as she saw them. She lifted her hood and they could see that it was a girl with light brown-orange colored hair that she was wearing in twin ponytails. The girl stepped closer to him and wrapped her arms around him. Issei, it is me, Irina, she told him. He could feel both Asia and Rainier stare at him. The town Kyo in Japan, Kyo Academy. The black-clothed figure was standing in the middle of the club room belonging to the Occult Research Club. He was able to get in completely unnoticed, taking everybody by surprise, and would have been able to leave in the same way, if he wanted. His method of teleportation was completely different from anything the supernaturals here knew. He could just appear right inside the building and only be seen when it was already too late. Like this time, the group of devils was caught completely off guard when he was suddenly standing inside their rooms. Yet they were still trying to put up a fight as they saw his intentions and were of course failing. He saw the devil he was holding onto by her throat was struggling to break free. Another one, the dark-haired fallen angel hybrid, he had literally nailed at the door with multiple spears made out of ice that he had conjured and that were now rammed through her chest and stomach. He could just see the last bit of life leaving her eyes. The smaller white-haired girl was already lying lifeless to his feet. One of the last who was still left, the blonde knight, was raising his sword wordlessly and moved to attack him. He barely reacted to the insignificant threat. The man just made a small gesture and Hyoudou Kiba's body was ripped apart from the inside out. He turned his attention back to the devil he was holding. She had tried to use an attack against him, but he stopped it before she even began. He had made sure to let her watch how he had easily destroyed her peerage without even trying. Before he broke her neck and let her dead body fall to the ground, he was looking down at her, Rias Gremory, her queen, her knight, her rook, all eliminated. Then he turned to the last two people who were left in the room. The small blonde girl Asia Argento. She wasn't a fighter, so he decided to make her end quick. He conjured his own sword into his hand and separated her head from her body. And to the last one, who had been screaming desperately the entire time, when he had seen what the stranger had been doing. The last remaining member of the peerage, Issei Hyoudou, who was being pressed against the wall by the powers of the attacker's sacred gear. He could have easily finished off this one like the others, but his masters had told him that they had still interest in him. This here was one of the universes where Rias Gremory had succeeded in turning Issei Hyoudou into her servant. "You bastard," the boy yelled, trying in vain to hold back his tears. Why did you do this?" He was trying to break free, but the blood in his veins was being controlled by his enemy's power and holding him back. Hyoudou was draining power from his own boosted gear, but his body was far from able to reach a high enough strength to overcome the invisible grip. "Why?" the man repeated his question. "Does there really need to be a reason to finish off a group of devils?" he asked casually, but then a grin formed on his face. "You," Issei growled in a nearly blind rage. The stranger was only looking at him, but then another thought was coming to the man's mind. "Actually, Issei Hyoudou," he said, "you should thank me." "Thank you," he shouted. "You killed my friends." "You, friends?" the man asked curiously. "You are the Red Dragon Emperor, as I have been told. You should stand on your own and not be enslaved to an arrogant and spoiled devil, or bound to people who would only slow you down," he said with a glance at Asia's body. "I will kill you. I swear I will kill you, no matter what I have to do," Issei screamed. The being who had just wiped out the entire Gremory peerage was just returning his gaze with slight amusement. "Issei, have you ever asked yourself one question?" he stated. "How was Rias Gremory able to place a summoning flyer on you during the day where you were killed, unless she knew what was going to happen the entire time?" Issei froze. The boy understood where this was going. He was clearly not as stupid as you got the impression. She had someone in place to take photos of you, just to show them to you later. "How come she did nothing to warn you or keep you from getting killed?" the stranger questioned. "Unless of course she actually intended for you to die." "No, that isn't true." "But you wouldn't do something like that," Issei exclaimed. "Even now you deny the truth, even if it is thrown in your face." "It is kind of pathetic actually," the man responded. "I truly don't know why my associates asked me to spare a fool like you. Your so-called friends have been lying to you every day. The only true innocent under them was Asia, but of course she happened to be in my way." As he heard these words, the rage returned to Issei's face. But before anything more was said, the door was being slammed open. Just like he had expected, the other devil peerage of this town had arrived, after they had realized that something was wrong. It had taken them only a few minutes to come here. But a few minutes were all the entire fight, and his conversation with Hyoudou had cost him. Sona Citri and her queen were standing in the door, with the entire rest of her peerage right behind them. "Rias," she called out as she saw the body of her friend on the ground and her massacred servants lying around her. "Who are you?" she shouted at the intruder. "Who has sent you?" Her fury rivaled that Issei had shown a few moments ago. For Sona, who was normally always calm and composed, nearly emotionless at the outside, this was very unusual. But given the situation, nobody was surprised. "Who has sent me?" "That is a good question," he replied. "I am told to give you my greetings from Azazel," the man said. "Or was it Michael? I am not sure anymore." He grinned. "You." Her rage became even more visible since the attacker who had just murdered her friend and her servants was obviously toying with her. "Don't think that you can play with us." "Who would send you?" she yelled. But the man only laughed. "Oh, and Hyoudou, I am afraid you won't kill me. In fact, you will never see me again after this day. Even if you traveled to the end of your world, you won't find me," he stated. He was telling the truth. His counterpart in this world, he knew, had been dead for many years, and the current owner of the sacred gear he was using was a 9-year-old child in this reality. He would leave this universe and had no intention to return. There was no way they would find anything about him. "Tsubaki, Megumi, Benya, go," Sona ordered for her queen and her 2 knights to move. But it was already too late. He vanished right in front of them. There had been no magic circle to see. It was a form of transportation spell they had never seen before. The man left Sona Citri's peerage and the mentally broken Issei Hyoudou behind. Moments later he reappeared, somewhere at the other side of Japan. He let his eyes and also his mental senses wander around, taking in the landscape. He was alone. Just like he had expected, there was no other person around in miles. Another mission. All too easy, he thought. Just a few minutes later he could feel the telepathic call reaching him. "Yes," he answered. "As I see in your thoughts that you have finished the mission," the voice who had been calling him stated. "It was went as planned, I presume. Of course, this young devils were no opponents for me. I even added a little bonus with this Issei Hyoudou you have mentioned," he replied. "It was actually somewhat boring," he commented. In this world here, Azazel, the leader of the fallen angels, had found evidence about the plot that Cockabeel had planned against him and had him arrested before he could actually start it. This was secretly a great progress for Azazel's plans to end the conflict between the 3 factions, since Cockabeel had been the greatest hindrance under the Gregory leaders for peace. But this went against the interests of his masters. They wanted the conflict to continue for longer. Now, with the sister of one of the Mao killed and the other 2 factions automatically under suspicion, Azazel's plans for peace won't have a real chance to succeed for the visible future. Beside that, Rias Gremory was also supposed to marry another high-ranked, high-class devil from the Phoenix family in a few weeks from now on in an arranged political marriage. Of course, this will now never come to pass. This little fact might cause additional unrest under the pureblood devil families. It wouldn't be much, but maybe worth considering. He had purposely dropped hints that either one of the other faction leaders could be responsible for the hit, or maybe some splinter group that only wanted to discriminate them. But in truth it was none of all these. No, the true mastermind behind this attack was a force that these foolish creatures could not even imagine. And while for them the death of the sister of one of the Devil Kings might be a great thing, for him it was not more than a low-grade mission. Barely more than a waste of his time. It seems, Agent Crossel, that you don't think that your talents are properly challenged? The voice addressed him again. I have another mission for you that you might find more interesting. It was the voice of a woman. He had actually never physically met her, but he of course knew her by reputation. She was one of the lords, the heads of their organization, personally responsible for the destruction of entire worlds. And more. What kind of mission will that be? He wanted to know. One that will bring you back to your home universe. Your time of outside missions is now over and we want you to take care of things in your world from now on, she told him. Outside mission. This meant in his case someone who was given different tasks in different parallel universes that were not his own. Like he had done it for the last few years. I see, so this is a promotion, he mentioned. Yes, you are from now on personally responsible for our plans on your home dimension's versions of Earth and their heaven and underworld. I see, he replied. But certainly you also have a specific task in mind with that I should begin. Indeed I have. Your first target is ironically the counterpart of the same person you have just been dealing with, Issei Hyoudou. And here I thought I finally had a challenge, he remarked. Don't be so hasty. This version of Issei Hyoudou has a short time ago been recruited by the enemy. So he is a member of the Guardians, he stated. Yes, and that is not everything. The one who is his partner at the moment, the one who is instructing him, is nobody else than the angel who once fell for your sake. Her, he said. By our information it also seems that these two are beginning to recruit others and maybe build up a team around them. You are right, he replied. This is interesting. He would very soon return to his world. This was what he had been waiting for, he thought. It wouldn't take long and he would come to realize his own plans. A few miles from Kyo, back in the regular world, Issei was in a pretty awkward situation. He tried to remember when he had ever met a girl named Irina. Issei, you know her? Asia questioned. If he was honest, she seemed somewhat familiar to him. Very familiar actually on a closer look. But he couldn't quite place it. Still, if he had ever known a girl like that, he would certainly remember her, right? Especially one who was willing to throw her arm around him like this on sight. Irina, how do you know this person? Her fellow exorcist asked as well. She too had lowered her hood and they saw that it was a young girl with short bluish hair and a bright yellow strand in it. Yes, Issei, who is this? He heard Rainer asking him as well. Don't you want to introduce us? Her tone was sounding sweet at the outside. She was using the same voice as in her alter ego as Yuma, the same one like on their date. But he could hear a certain kind of malice swinging with it. Suddenly it hit him. Irina, you mean Irina Hyoudou? He asked. That is you. Yes, of course it is me, she said. Didn't you recognize me? We have known each other since we were children after all. Yes, but you are a girl. He stammered. I never realized that you were a girl. If he thought the situation had been awkward before, with this statement he had made it 10 times worse. The dumbfounded expression everyone around was looking at him for a moment could have been out of some comedy TV show. Then, after a second as they fully registered what they had just heard, Rainer, Rias and even Gariel near instantly broke out into laughter. Aquino was a bit quieter, but still laughing. Tiba looked as if he could barely hold himself back. Even Asia was giggling a little. Issei, that was just great. You actually believed she was a boy. I thought something like that doesn't happen in real life, Rainer said, still chuckling, while she was still trying to get a hold on herself. And I thought you of all people would know the difference between boys and girls. I see you are already back to laughing about me, Issei commented dryly. The fallen angel froze. She suddenly looked uncomfortable, even hurt, and somehow afraid. He remembered he had not said that he had forgiven her, at least yet. But why should she even care that much about this? I'm sorry, Issei. I didn't mean it like this, she exclaimed quickly. It was clear that all what had happened over the day, especially the revelation about one of her leaders' betrayal from a few minutes ago, had really gotten to her. He was looking at her for a few moments. Don't worry, it is okay, he told her. I admit it was funny. He smiled. He was actually smiling at her, he thought. What was he thinking? She was his killer and now he was standing here, placating her, actually worrying about her feelings and even trying to calm her down. Still it was as if the impact of what had happened had turned the cynical and arrogant fallen angel that he had got to know into an overly sensitive, fragile and very easy to hurt girl. Well, at least temporary. And a part of him couldn't help hating seeing her like this. Another small part of him, however, he admitted, was glad seeing her so vulnerable. She could surely not be able to hurt him when she was like that. Yet another part of him felt ashamed for even thinking in that way. Anyway, not matter how he felt. He had literally seen her turn into a crying mess a few minutes ago and he knew the last thing they needed was her breaking down again right in the middle of the meeting. He noticed that Rainer had indeed calmed down and was even returning his smile. As he turned back around to the two exorcists, he realized that Irina and her partner were staring at them. It somehow came to him what kind of display he and Rainer must have just made. And that right in front of them. Issei, why are you here with a group of devils and fallen angels? What do you have to do with these people? She asked him. And what in the world has happened to you? she yelled suddenly after taking a closer look at him. Issei realized that he hadn't thought about hiding his powers anymore after this surprise. Both of the exorcists now easily noticed the large power he was radiating. Damn it, Issei and Gariel, though nearly at the same time. They had hoped that whoever the church would send would not pay much attention to him next to the devils and fallen angels with them. To them he would have been just another human who cooperated with the other factions for one reason or the other. How in the world were they supposed to know that his childhood friend of all people would be one of them? They must have had the worst kind of bad luck here. Well, maybe not completely. After all, Issei now looked clearly happy to see her again, now that he knew who she was and even finally figured out her gender. Gariel admitted even she could barely hold herself back from laughing once again when she thought about it. She actually grinned a bit for a moment. If she was honest, she had hoped to keep Issei's involvement in all this a secret, at least for now. The truth was, the Vatican and the heads of the Protestant and Orthodox churches knew about the existence of the Guardians and had at least some ties with them. But she would have preferred if the fact that they were cooperating with the Gregory and especially the agreement she had made with Rias Gremory would be kept quiet about. She wasn't quite sure how the church would react to these things. Issei, don't tell me you have joined them, Irina exclaimed. So much for that, Gariel thought. Irina, why else would he be here with them? Her partner stated. Your friend has obviously joined one of the other factions, and since they are enemies of God, we will have to consider him one too. You cannot mean that Zenovia. Issei is my oldest friend. There has to be a reason for this, Irina insisted. For a short moment Gariel was tempted to reveal who they really were, but that would make everything even more complicated right now, especially with the devils around. If we are enemies of the church, why are we handing over one of the most wanted stray exorcists to you? She commented instead. That doesn't mean much. You will have your own reasons for it, the girl replied. Oh, I am Zenovia Quarta by the way. My name is Gariel, she returned the introduction. You already know of my partner Issei Hyoudou and this is Rainier. I am Rias Gremory. This is my queen Akino Hanjima, my knight Hyoudou Kiba and my rook Kaneko Taoju, Rias stated on behalf of her own group. I see, the exorcist named Zenovia replied. Issei, tell me, what is with you and that fallen angel? Irina demanded. He felt Rainier stepping forward from right behind him and laying one of her arms around his shoulder. What is with us? That is quite simply, she said, I am his girlfriend. The dumbfounded expression the two exorcists had now was truly priceless. Issei himself was also not sure how he felt about this declaration. So that is the explanation, Irina called out. This fallen angel has seduced you. She was now literally staring daggers at Rainier and both Issei and Gariel saw that her hand was uncomfortably close to her sword. Just what they needed, a young girl starting a battle out of jealousy. No, it is truly not what you think, Issei told her. But they all were suddenly interrupted. It was Fried, who was still being guarded by Kiba and Akino and had followed their entire exchange so far in slight amusement. Now he started to laugh loudly. Girlfriend, that's just great. Do you know why your friend suddenly has this kind of power? Why his sacred gear had been activated? The shackled stray exorcist yelled. His girlfriend here has killed him with her own hands just a few days ago. I don't know how they have brought him back, but that pretty much, well. He grinned. Irina's expression had now turned downright murderous and her hand was now truly on her weapon. What? She said in a dangerous low tone. Oh, but that is not even all, Fried continued. This girl there. Do you know who that is? He yelled. This is Asia Argento. Yes, the same nun who was excommunicated because she had healed a devil. And now she is here with them. What do you think? Maybe you should better kill her now, before the devils or fallen angels manage to corrupt her completely. He asked them grinning. The gaze of the two exorcists had now turned to Asia, who they had not actually paid attention to so far. But now that had instantly changed. Issei and Gariel both clenched their teeth. Fried had recognized her. This was what they had feared. And Asia kneeling him in the balls earlier had certainly not helped his motivation to keep his mouth shut. The main reason why they had come up with the disguise and the false name in the first place was to keep her identity from the devils. But now he had blurted it out, not only in front of them but also the two exorcists. This could be bad. Not that they didn't trust themselves to defend Asia if these two really decided to attack her. But with blowing her secret right in front of Rias Peerage and the church agents, their entire deception to fake her death would essentially become meaningless. You won't actually listen to this lunatic, right, Irina? Issei asked her, moving himself between them and the disguised ex-nun. This is my foster sister Maya. She isn't this Asia Argento or whatever person. And Rainier, she wouldn't hurt me. He said weakly. He really wished he sounded more convincing. But he just couldn't bring the words out. He admitted he hated lying to her like this, and actually claiming that Rainier had never hurt him. It felt like throwing salt into an open wound. But they couldn't let this escalate right now. Irina was still standing before him with her hand on her sword, struggling with herself. You have to admit, she has a certain resemblance to Asia Argento, Zenovia stated. Except the hair and the glasses, it could easily be her. And if someone like Asia Argento was threatening to join the other factions, it would be better if we take her out. Irina now turned back to her partner, looking a bit uncomfortable about the suggestion. But she didn't say something against it either. Well, that might be. Rainier of all people spoke up, but this girl here is not Asia Argento. Why should we believe you, fallen angel? Zenovia asked. Tell me, why is this Asia even a topic to begin with? Because of her sacred gear, Twilight Healing, right? Yes, Zenobia replied. A power that can heal anyone, even devils and fallen angels. That is why we should do anything to keep it out of their hands. It seems you are a bit too late then. Rainier smirked. May I? She reached out to the blade of Irina's sword. I just want to show you something. She let her hand glide lightly over the sharp edge of the weapon, leaving a small but visible cut, and then instantly healed it, radiating a greenish light. The two exorcists looked shocked at the display. You should know that my former team had found Asia Argento some time ago, Rainier said. As you surely know, no sacred gear user is capable of surviving the removal of their gear. She can't be Asia because she is dead. We killed her, she lied. You damned bitch. Fried growled at her at Rainier. I don't know how you have done this, but you can't fool me like those idiots here. Oh, shut up, Selzen, she replied. And by the way, Fried, are you really in a position to call anyone a bitch? I mean all chained up like you are, she said with a grin. The stray exorcist was just glaring at her murderously. But he was not the only one. You killed her to get her sacred gear, Irina yelled, and Issei. You are with her, even if you know that she is a murderer. She even killed you if what that stray exorcist said is true. How could you? Have you not just considered to kill this girl yourself a minute ago? Gariel commented. That is something completely different, Irina replied. Of course, it always is, she remarked dryly. But this is not the matter right now. You are here to bring this guy. She pointed at Fried, and not to let him play us against each other. He's obviously only trying to distract us all. As much as I hate to say it, but the fallen angel is right, Rias told them sternly. We are here to hand over Fried Selzen to you. Here he is. If you are not interested and rather fight about other matters, then we can always take him back and you can explain this to your superiors. Okay, Zenobia said. We have a transport vehicle at the other side of this forest, about 1 mile from here. I will come with you to assist you, Gariel stated, hoping for a chance to be alone with the two agents of the church. You can return to the town then, she said to Issei and the others. I will meet you later like we have agreed to, she added with a side glance to Rias. It seems being an arrogant devil actually has its advantages, right? She said quietly to her. Just remember our agreement, fallen angel, she replied, visible annoyed by the comment. Neither Irina or Zenobia resisted Gariel's offer to accompany them. They knew all too well how dangerous Selzen was and that they could need the help. As they were leaving together, the others were about to return to the town. Both groups on their own. Rainier, Issei whispered to her as they stepped closer together for the transport circle, remembering how she had covered for Asia. Thank you. He said the words that he had never thought he would. The abandoned church. For the last day, not much had happened for the remaining fallen angels. Rainier had left for the headquarters last night, after she had told them that she had disposed of the nun's body. As their new member Gariel had told them, she had died despite her efforts to improve the ritual to keep her alive. Well, it was sad. It would have certainly been a good thing if they could have removed sacred gears with the users surviving. A few might have actually volunteered to get rid of them. Still, it was nothing to shed tears over. They had gotten what they intended to after all. Just a few hours later in the same night, Gariel herself had left as well without saying much. As Calawarner had asked her, she had just stated that she had gotten another mission and won't return. Since she had not really been a member of their team in the first place, it was also no real loss. Another one who had not returned was Fried Selzen. Someone else they would clearly not miss. He had just not come back from the search for Asia Argento. Maybe he had run into Issei Hyoudou and was actually defeated by him, as unlikely as it sounded that a boy who had just activated his sacred gear would beat an experienced exorcist. But going by Calawarner's state after her fight with him, he wasn't exactly a weakling anymore. Or maybe Selzen had picked a fight with the devils and was killed by them. As they knew him, that was also good possible. A number of the other stray exorcists had left as well this morning. They had only been here for the single purpose to assist and guard the ritual and were now going back to other tasks. The ones who remained in the church were Donasik, Calawarner, Middelt and the rest that was left of their hired group of stray exorcists. The devils had been quiet and they had not actually seen much of them. For the greatest part of the day, not much had happened. Until about half an hour ago, 2 messages had arrived only a short time apart. The first was the official announcement from the headquarters. It was telling them that Rainier had been assigned to a special mission on direct orders of Lord Azazel himself, and that Donasik was promoted to team leader. Well, good for both of them, he thought. It seemed that Rainier had finally succeeded with her wish to raise Azazel's attention. Furthermore, it only said that their team should stand back and wait for further orders. So it was just sitting around and doing nothing. None of them particular like that. This was until the second message arrived. This one was a direct order from Lord Cockabeel. A smile formed on Donasik's face while he was reading it. Finally, some action. Calawarner, Middelt, he called out. Come, we have something to do. Hyoudou Academy, the same evening. Rias and her peerage had returned less than an hour ago. Like she had already expected, Grafia contacted her again only a short time later. And also the reason for her call was no surprise, given what Sona had told her. She had to admit, she was happier than ever before that she had accepted the deal that the fallen angel with Issei had offered her. A short time later, Grafia appeared in person. But as she told them, she would not be the only one. Razor Phoenix, as it turned out, has for some reason started to press for the engagement between them. She had instantly sent a message to her new Well, she guessed she should call them allies. It was not that she truly trusted that fallen angel Issei was working with, but this might be her best and quite possible only chance if things continued like this. Tell me everything about this razor that you can, Gariel had asked her. Only facts, don't say something only because you don't like him. The better my picture of the man is, the better for you. That was what she had told her. Now the time had come and Rias could only hope that everything would work out. She and her peerage members were now sitting together in their club room, waiting. Only Grafia was still standing, acting her part as a maid of the Gremory house. Grafia, Rias addressed her, there is one last thing. 2 more friends of us will arrive here soon. I wanted them to be present for this meeting. 2 friends Rias-sama. She questioned. This meeting should have actually only been the business of you, Razor-sama, and your servants and houses. I know, but it is important for me to have them here. Grafia, I have one request. Yes, the maid asked. Whatever you hear when they are talking with Razor, don't say anything, and even more, don't attack them. Why should I attack your friends Rias-sama? They are not members of our faction, she told her vaguely. Nor are they regular humans. Rias, what are you planning? Grafia asked now. Concern was to hear in her voice. Just promise me, she repeated. Okay, if that is your wish, she stated, still not sounding exactly happy. Thank you. A minute later another magic circle showed up on the ground before them, this one in the style of the House of Phoenix, and a blonde-haired young man appeared. Rias, my love, how wonderful to see you again, Razor greeted her, his voice sounding more than smug. Okay, sadly the chapter is over, and if you enjoyed just leave a like, and subscribe with post notification, so when the next chapter is ready, you will be notified. Okay, see you in the next video. Bye.